you. Thank you so much.
Vallejo Project. Now, please give them. Vallejo Project. Is this your company?
Yes, servant leadership. We do gardening. We have carpentry. Trying to get people to learn self-sufficiency, how to build their own homes, grow their own food, make their own clothes, and live, autonomously.
This here at home. I was just on my stroll and she pulled up on me, and I'm grateful. Come on.
That's a one take, though.
Nature lovers, rejoice. Vallejo is your playground. With over 1,000 acres of parks and open spaces, adventure awaits around every corner. Hike the trails of Dan Foley Park, enjoy a family picnic at Blue Rock Springs Park, or cast a line from our public fishing pier. Our mild climate means year-round opportunities for golfing, biking, and water sports. Whether you're seeking a peaceful nature walk or an adrenaline-pumping outdoor activity, Vallejo's diverse landscape has something for everyone. Come explore the natural beauty that makes our city special.
All right, if we're going to assemble and get to our seats so we can start. All right. We are going to go ahead and get going. I'm going to call to order the regular meeting of the Vallejo City Council at 7:38 p.m. And I want to start by thanking our audience for their patience. We went a little over in our closed session, and I really appreciate everybody sticking around. I'll ask our clerk to go ahead and conduct the roll call.
Mayor Soers.
Present.
Vice Mayor Machulik.
Present.
Council members Begenzer.
Present.
Gordon.
Present.
Letter 2. Palmeris.
Present.
And is Councilmember Matias joining us virtually? Okay. He's currently
Is
not
he
with us.
present? And Councilmember Matias already stated this in closed session, but we'll have him restate his
Yes,
remote
please.
participation as he confirms. All right, Councilmember Matias, can you confirm again your Brown Act teleconferencing exemption?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I am participating remotely this evening under the Just Cause provision because I'm caring for a family member.
All right, thank you. So we are all here. That's going to bring us to the Pledge of Allegiance. If everyone would please stand and join us for the pledge. All right, thank you all. And the council did meet in closed session immediately prior to this, so I will turn it over to our city attorney for our report out from closed session.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Council did meet in closed session this evening on the following items. Conference with labor negotiators pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.6, with the agency designated representatives being Stephanie Cifuentes, Human Resources Director. The employer organizations were the Vallejo Police Officers Association, International Association of Firefighters Local 1186, Confidential Administrative Managerial Professional Association, and unrepresented employees. The next item is conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, initiation of litigation. On item 3A, council gave direction and took no further action. Item 3B, conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, initiation of litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9D4, 3 cases. Council gave direction on all 3 cases and took no further action. Item 3C, conference with real property negotiators pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.8. The property is 285 Mary Island Way, Vallejo, California. Agency negotiator is Gillian Hain, Assistant City Manager. Negotiating parties, Wendy Stevenson and Tim Heemstra. Under negotiation, price and terms of payment of lease. Council gave direction to staff and took no further action. Item 3D, conference with legal counsel, existing litigation pursuant to California Government Code Section 54956.9D1. The case is Robinson versus City of Vallejo, Solano County Superior Court. The case number is set forth on the agenda. Council gave direction and took no further action. Item 3E, conference with legal counsel, existing litigation, paragraph 1 of subdivision D of section 54956.9, Yeager Vineyards LLC et al. Versus City of Vallejo, Superior Court of California, County of Napa. Case number is set forth in the agenda. That matter was continued to a future date. And the final item is conference with legal counsel, existing litigation, paragraph 1 of subdivision D of section 54956.9, City of American Canyon versus City of Vallejo, 1996 agreement, Sacramento County Superior Court. Case number is set forth in the agenda. City of Vallejo versus City of American Canyon, 1996 agreement cross complaint, Sacramento County Superior Court. Case number is set forth in the agenda. City of Vallejo versus City of American Canyon, Giovannoni, Sacramento County Superior Court case. Case number is set forth in the agenda. City of Vallejo versus City of American Canyon, Watson Ranch, Sequa, Sacramento County Superior Court case. Case number is set forth in the agenda. And City of Vallejo versus City of American Canyon, Measure Case Sequa, Marin County Superior Court case. Case number set forth in the agenda. And that completes all of the closed session items. And all of those items and the last one I read out were continued to a future date.
All right, thank you. That's going to bring us to item 5, presentations and commendations. We don't have any on our agenda this evening, but I am going to turn it over to our city manager because we have a new employee that we would like to introduce.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I'm going to ask our new Vallejo Fire Department Chief to come forward, Chief Jonathan Goulding. We just wanted to take this opportunity to welcome him to Vallejo and to the department. We're excited that he's here. Obviously, as testament in terms of the other staff that are here to support him. But before you say a couple of words, I also want to thank Interim Chief James Rustis for stepping up and answering the call to serve as the interim. And we want to thank him for doing a phenomenal job as the interim chief. So, Chief Goulding.
Thank you, Mayor, council members. I know you have a full agenda tonight, so I'll just take a couple seconds, but I did want to thank the city manager for the trust that he's placed in me to protect this community. And it's truly an honor to have the opportunity to lead such a phenomenal group of guys. I have hit the ground running. There's been a lot in my first week here, but so far every one of my interactions has been a phenomenal interaction with the fire department members, the community members, the partners throughout the city, and our neighboring agencies. So I appreciate the opportunity, and I'm looking forward to serve the community. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Can we?
Chief, you're gonna have to come back. We want to take a photo with you.
Can we have all the VFD folks? We'll take a photo. We'll do something to welcome the chief if y'all are willing. And I'll go back a little further as we reassemble and welcome Chief Goulding and thank our interim chief Rustis as well as the previous interim chief Arthur Gonzalez for their excellent leadership of the fire department over the past year and a half almost. What? The fire radios are going off. All right, I think we're ready to move on. That is going to bring us to our first community forum. This is the opportunity for anyone, member of the public, to address the city council on items not on our agenda this evening. We are going to keep it to 15 minutes because we got a late start and we've got our budget. And we've got 6 in-person speakers. Let's see if we can get to them all. If you all can try to move a little quickly, we'll try to get you all in.
Yes, the first 3 speakers in this order are Sierra King, then Andreas Schmidt, and then Lily Hurd.
And anyone online, we most likely won't get to you, but you will have an opportunity at the second community forum later in the meeting. Go ahead.
Hello, my name is Sierra King, and I've lived in Vallejo for 26 years. I'm here to address an issue on behalf of my neighbors, the issues that the trailer parks that have been parking within our street community. These trailers come and go, they get red tagged, only for them to leave and then new trailers come. And this has been an ongoing issue for over 2 months. These trailers come, they dump their trash, they let their dogs urinate and poop in our yard, and they just are unpleasant for the community. And I'm not only here on behalf of the neighborhood, but we also have a gym, in-shape gym, where these trailers have been parking within the lot area. They say that when the trailers come, they make their guests feel uncomfortable, they leave their garbage in their area, and it's become unsafe for the people to come in and out the parking lot. We asked for the city of Vallejo to either red tape that area so the trailers cannot park there, or put cement blocks up so this issue does not become a repeated pattern. Thank you.
Can you
All right,
please
thank you very
specify the
much.
neighborhood that you're, can you please specify the neighborhood that it is?
The neighborhood is Magazine Street, Pueblo Way.
Okay, we'll note that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We are working on it. That's my district. Yeah, thank you.
All right.
I just called the first three speakers. The next speaker right now is Andreas Schmidt.
Hello, City Council. Thanks for giving us this time. So I just want to talk about a few things. It'll start with me. I'm sorry, but that's where we have to start. So I just want to talk about my own history. I'm a horticulturist. I owned my own greenhouse before I could drive. I've been involved with plants all of my life. And so I see stuff before other people do, perhaps. And so what I was noticing once I retired and walking my dogs, I noticed in the median strip on Wilson Way, lots of plants dying. It seemed like these plants simply were not getting water. And so every day I would lament and I would think, what can I do? What can I do? And finally, we brought it up to the VHNA, and they partnered with the city. We did a fundraiser. We got some plants together, and we planted that planter. It's about 50 yards. You look at it when you go by there. And thank you, Charles, again. I'm going to do it publicly. You got in those speed reducing strips there, those speed bumps, basically. Wilson Way is a whole different area now, just to let you know. But the other part that I have been concerned with is the ferry terminal parking garage. It's 3 stories, and you know that it was a $22 million project. And it's not a place that people know about. People drive by there, they don't know about that. But I'm going to tell you right out in front of you here, you have Veterans Park. I've seen pictures of you guys go out there. I'm just going to tell you, in Veterans Park, as a park planner, I was a college graduate park planner, yes I was. We would look at things. We would look at, well, how many trash containers or benches. Out here in Veterans Park, you have about 8 of each. And you have about 50 trees, some mature, some not. Small plants don't survive there. But another park-like setting that doesn't get a lot of attention is over here in that parking garage. That top parking garage piece, let me tell you that, had 13 benches. It has 13 benches, 15 trash containers, 22 overhead lights. And there's about 100 planters up there. If you look at each 10 feet as a planter, you're talking 500 plants up there. Unfortunately, they're all dead because at some point there was some vandalism. Public Works turned the water off, and they all died. Now, what's next is in front of the building. There's 10 palms, and there's about 4 pines. They're all dying too. Yesterday, I was out there watering them. I took about 30 gallons of water out to water them. They're in the same water system. Public Works has no plan to water them. They're dying, and the replacement cost will be about $100,000. Each of those palms is about $4,000 to $15,000 to replace. So please get on top of this. I think it's a criminal issue. It's just making me sad. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Lily Hurd, and after Lily Hurd, the next 3 speakers are Jeffrey Wyndham, Misha Pimentelli, and Eric Johnson.
Good afternoon, everyone. I prepared a letter here to read, and I will be giving a copy to Abramson to give it to all of you. The subject is request for PHA payment from December 1st, 2025 through June 26th of 2026, 1815 Sutter Street. Listen closely. My specific concern for writing this letter is to request an immediate deposit of back PHA payment into my account of record. My portion of $15.93 has been delayed, not paid, for 7 months. Total $11,151. The oversight appears to be intentional and unwarranted. A written request for an increase was requested in writing within 60 days of the tenant's contract per VHA protocol. A letter from VHA dated September 24th, 25 stated a partial rent increase has been approved for $19.95. A subsequent letter dated October 29, 2025 stated on October 1, VHA approved a partial rent increase to $19.95 based on comparable market rents with VHA, absorbing the difference from the previous rent of $18.93. Do you guys understand? You'll understand more when you have it right there in front of you. And how much more time do I have? However, my request for a maximum increase July 30th, 2025, in the amount of $2,272 per month was ignored. The difference is $277 for 9 months. My personal auditor took less than 30 minutes to calculate these differences. It's cost me a lot of money to do what I do, guys. You guys owe me so much money in the last 56 years. It's terrible. The total combined loss to date is $13,644. Please remit, Mr. Black, ASAP. I need the money. I have yet to get a response from Assistant City Manager Gillian Hayes Hain or Housing Director Alicia Jones. Furthermore, there have been 6 city managers, including yourself, sir, from January 2018 to present. I won't begin to count the hundreds of thousands of dollars spent, if not millions. Perhaps this could be the major reason my payments have been delayed. Think, City Council, think. A couple more things to say. What has occurred during the last 60 days in particular is unjust, dishonest, immoral, discriminatory, to say the least. I'm requesting a complete audit of VHA payments to my HAP check account, in addition to an extensive investigation into VHA business practices. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Jeffrey Wyndham.
Good evening, everyone. Excuse me. My name is Jeffrey Wyndham. This is my wife, Annette Wyndham, and we are charge point operators, and what we do is we assist in open up EV chargers in underserved communities, and we see here, we drove around Vallejo, and we see a lot of lots that are vacant. But what we notice is that all of them been zoned, and the zoning been changed. So it's not giving us really an opportunity to bring EV chargers to the underserved communities, and we would like to know what we can do to bring this particular service, clean tech service, to the general areas. We don't know who to talk to. If Vallejo have lots that's available that we may be able to use, we'll lease them, or even if the city wants to do it themselves, we work with a company that can assist in this area to assist in bringing them to underserved communities.
And by doing so, that we can bring revenue that we need to help the community. So that's the goal. So at the end, if we can get somebody to talk to about that, we appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, someone from my office will meet you out towards the back and get your information so that we can reach out to you. Okay, thank you, Gillian. She's going to meet you right out there.
Thank you. And I'll note that I'll note that 6 out of 7 of our city council has EVs. So I don't know what the process is. I'm not committing to anything, but we do have a lot of EV drivers on this council.
Next speaker is Misha Pimentelli.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and members of the City Council of Vallejo. I'm here tonight to address the ongoing catalytic converter theft epidemic in our city. Last week, last week, my catalytic converter was stolen again. This is now the fourth time I have been a victim of a catalytic converter theft. Just a few weeks before that, my neighbor across the street also had their catalytic converter stolen from both their truck and their car. This is not an isolated incident. This is happening throughout our community. It happened in front of my home in the middle of the night. I didn't discover it until I was leaving for work the next morning. I started my truck and immediately heard the unmistakable roar of the engine, a familiar sound I unfortunately become all too familiar with. I called the police to report the theft, only to be told that I needed to file the report online. But this is only one part of the problem. As you know, vehicles manufactured after 1975 are generally required to pass California's emissions inspection every 2 years in order to maintain their registration. Without a catalytic converter, this is impossible to pass that inspection. That creates an impossible situations for victims. If your registration expires because you cannot pass a smog inspection, you cannot legally park your vehicle on a public street, even if it's directly in front of your own home. And in many situations, you also cannot leave it in long-term storage because many storage facilities require current registration. That includes your own driveway. Ironically, while victims are told to file theft reports online, they still face the possibility of having their vehicles cited or towed by traffic enforcement or code enforcement because they cannot legally register a vehicle that was disabled by a crime committed against them. I have personally experienced this multiple times. I even had a catalytic converter stolen twice from an RV that was stored in what was supposed to be a secured storage facility. The reality is that nowhere seems to be safe from catalytic converter theft. I respectfully ask the City Council to explore solutions that protect victims instead of penalizing them. One option would be to work with our state legislatures to create a temporary exemption or extension for emission compliance and vehicles registrations for owners who can document that their catalytic converter was stolen and that a police report has been filed. Victims of a crime should not be punished simply because they cannot immediately replace an expensive part that was stolen from them. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Yeah, thank you very much.
And we have one more speaker that signed up in person. Would you like to take that speaker?
We had a sixth.
This is the sixth one is Eric Johnson. And that is the last person that signed up for in-person speaking. Yeah, so I don't have you listed. Did you sign up?
Did you sign up for, ma'am? For a community forum, or did you want to speak on a different action item? What's your name, ma'am?
Let's go ahead and let this gentleman go, and then we'll sort that out.
She's not on.
Go ahead, sir.
Hi. Hi, my name is Eric Johnson. I've been a member of Vallejo for quite some time, about 40 years or so. I'm staying at the Navigation Center, and for what I've witnessed plenty of times is that the company there, they're not really working, I would say. They're lagging on that. They're basically, yesterday there wasn't no janitor there, so no one was there to clean up the place. But there were people taking showers and things like that. Also, I witnessed a lot of there's a lot of people that's been trashing the place, damaging property there. My recommendation for that is to whoever hired this company, they need to be like canceled, or like they need to, because they're not doing anything good for the community. Like I'm there and they fraternize with the guests. They get into everybody's stuff. They take stuff away from people that like things that they shouldn't be doing. And that's my only reason is for that is because that I don't see why this company is working at the navigation center, like because it's not helping at all. It's just everybody's just yelling at each other. Even the workers are yelling at guests for no reason. Like it doesn't make any sense. Another thing is I wanted to talk about is my situation of my identity theft. I haven't heard anything about that. So my lost phone and my cars that I'm looking for with my name on it, I haven't heard anything. Y'all hired a new city manager, so I don't know if he's heard anything about that. I think that's about it that I need to say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So we are a couple minutes over and we've got to get through our budget. If someone could maybe help assist and figure out if we can get our additional speakers signed up. I'm going to go ahead and move us along, but we'll figure out the best time to get you in here because we do need to move on with our agenda. So we're going to go ahead to our consent calendar and approval of agenda, and we'll take public comment for anyone in the members of the public that would wish to comment on items that are in our consent calendar this evening, and I will make a couple of notes of amendments that we are going to be making since we do have the budget this evening and we got a late start and there is a lot of public interest in the budget. We are going to do the same thing we did last meeting. Any items that are pulled from the consent calendar, we're going to hear at the very end of the meeting after our action calendar. We are going to be reversing items 9, C, and B in the order. So we are going to hear the budget first, and then we are going to hear the capital improvement plan. And I believe that's it. And we will be continuing 9A, but we're going to do that when we get to it. So we won't need to amend the agenda.
Well, do you want to just do that now?
I don't think we can.
Okay.
All right, is there any public comment on the consent calendar?
We do have 2 people on Zoom that have raised their hand.
Let's check with them and see if they want to speak on the consent calendar. They might be signed up for community forum, but let's go ahead and call them and just double check.
Rebecca Trumper, you have the floor.
Thank you. This is Rebecca True Emperor. I just wanted to comment quickly. I know we have a big agenda item with the budget tonight, but just quickly on 3 of these items on the consent calendar. Item G, with full respect to the hard work of the Economic Development Commission, as a fellow commissioner on another commission, I applaud all the work that commissioners put into helping our city. But I want to pause on that item. This to create banners for the city would have been such a great opportunity to involve the community, nonprofits, businesses, and create banners that really reflects more of the unique elements of our city. Just wanted to point that out. I'm not sure these banners, as designed, do the best job we could have done of really representing all of the riches we have to celebrate in our city. Second, item I, which is about environmental assessment and reuse of brown fields. It looks like that's looking at Mare Island and the waterfront. And I think it would just be nice if the community had more clarity around what is the responsibility of the Navy and their cleanup efforts of these brown fields and toxins and pollutants. What's the responsibility of the developer, Mare Island Company, on these properties? And so we'd have a better idea of what exactly Nino and Moore would be looking at, which properties. I know part of their assignment is to identify the properties with the city. And then lastly, item J is about the community development block grant and home investment partnerships. And I just want to point out that the community input time period is open until June 30th, but it looks like the council is being asked to approve the plan tonight before the community has had the full opportunity to comment, and that just doesn't seem right. And that's all. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. Let's go ahead and call our other online speaker.
Melvin Cowan, you have the floor. Please unmute yourself.
Yes, thank you. Good evening, Mayor Source and council members. My name is Melvin Cowan, Vallejo resident, and I'm speaking on consent calendar item 8J, the fiscal year 2026-27 HUD Annual Action Plan. I want to thank the city staff and the Housing and Community Development Commission for sharing the plan. I'm also encouraged to see that the plan is prioritizing tenant-based rental assistance, permanent supportive housing, public services, housing navigation, and pathways into permanent housing. As the city considers this plan and also additional insights from the public during its review period, I'd like to encourage staff and council to look for ways to align these existing housing tools with targeted encampment resolution efforts, including the work being developed around the White Slough. White Slough is one of Vallejo's most complex unsheltered areas with flooding risk, environmental exposure, limited access, and long-term housing instability. Addressing it will require more than cleanup. It'll require coordinated outreach, interim stabilization, health supports, housing navigation, and real pathways into permanent housing. And so it wouldn't be about replacing existing city priorities or making a new funding request tonight, more about strengthening the bridge between Vallejo's adopted housing goals, existing local housing resources, and future state funding opportunities like the Encampment Resolution Fund. So I respectfully encourage the city to continue supporting coordination around White Slough and to help identify where existing city housing resources, referrals, and program pathways can align with eligible residents as this work moves forward. I want to thank you all for your time and attention tonight.
All right, thank you very much. Presuming that's our last speaker, has anyone else raised their hand? All right, we'll close public comment and I'll check in to see if any council members want to pull anything from the consent calendar. Councilmember Gordon.
Yes, thank you so much. I would like to pull I, J, and K.
All right, we will pull item 8I, that will become 8.1, 8J will become 8.2, and 8K will become 8.3, and we will hear those after the action calendar so that we can get through the budget first. Any other council members wishing to pull items? And seeing none, we are looking for a motion with the small adjustment to the agenda as previously stated.
Through the chair, real quick, I'm sorry. Individuals,
Councilmember Gordon.
they don't have to stay if the city manager can explain. I don't need a presentation, so they don't have to stay if I don't need a presentation if the city manager can explain.
Let's check on that on the side. We'll proceed, but we'll have that conversation on the side. Go ahead, Vice Mayor.
Yes, I move we approve the consent calendar with moving item 8I to item 8.1, item 8J to item 8.2, item 8K to item 8.3, and approving the rest of the agenda as is. Do you want me to notice 9A?
We're going to hear C before B.
Oh, and then flipping 9C to be 9B, and then 9B to be 9C. Identify.
And then we'll be continuing I-9A, but we're going to open the hearing and then continue it. So
Okay.
I think we're good. We have a motion, and I think we're ready to vote. We're going
Madam
to need
Mayor, I
to
have to
do
do
a roll call vote. So
Yes,
yeah,
I
we'll go
do.
ahead and do that.
Okay. Mayor Source.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Matulik.
Aye.
Councilmember Bergenzer.
Yes.
Gordon.
Aye.
Lettigiou.
Aye.
Matias.
Sorry to do this to you guys, but can I ask a quick clarifying question on the motion before I vote? The continuation of 9A, what meeting is that being continued to? Because I'm just
We're
concerned
going
that
to
if,
hear it. We're going to open it right now and hear it and vote on it when we get to it.
okay, all right, yes.
We'll clarify then. Thanks for checking.
So your vote was a yes?
Yes.
And Councilmember Paul Maris.
Aye.
And that motion carried unanimously.
Thank you very much. All right, we will hear those consent items at the end that were pulled. That is going to move us to our action calendar. I'll ask our clerk to announce item 9A, and then we're going to proceed with the staff recommendation.
Hold a public hearing and adopt a resolution approving an amendment to the master fee schedule for fiscal year 26-27, establishing and revising fees for the fire department.
All right, thank you very much. We'll go ahead and summarize the recommendation from staff. I'll turn it over to the city manager if you have any additional comments, but the recommendation that we were given was to continue this item since it is a public hearing. We would do it to a date certain, which would be July 14th. And the reason for that is that the rest of our fee schedules for other departments will be coming back on the 14th, and that way we can do the budget now and then all the fees at our next meeting. City Manager Black, would you like to add anything to that?
Confirm everything that you said. I would just only have to repeat it, so I think.
And let's just see, do I need to officially open the public hearing now as well, or can we just check for public comment? Do we have any public commenters on this item?
Through the mayor, we do not have any members of the public sign up to speak on this item.
Point. Okay, do I need to officially open and close the public hearing?
You can just continue it to a date certain.
All
and then
right,
open
then.
the public hearing then.
Perfect. I will look for that motion then.
I move we continue item 9A, hold a public hearing and adopt a resolution approving an amendment to the master fee schedule for fiscal year 2026 to 2027, establishing and revising fees for the fire department, and continuing this to the July 14th meeting.
All right, let's do a roll call vote.
Vice Mayor Matulik.
Aye.
Councilmember Bergenzer.
Yes.
Gordon.
Aye.
Leduc. Matias.
Yes.
Paul Maris.
Aye.
Mayor Source.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously with Councilmember Leduc absent.
All right, thank you. That is going to bring us to item 9C, which we have swapped to here before 9B, which is our budget item, and I'll ask our city clerk to announce this item, please.
Hold a public hearing and adopt resolutions relating to the fiscal year 26-27 budget and related actions, any additional actions based on council direction, and introduction of an ordinance to ratify all city funds.
All right, thank you. So we will open up the public comment period for folks that want to sign up at the kiosk or online by raising your hands. I'll turn it over for the staff presentation, and then I'll officially open the public hearing and take public comment, and then we'll go to council discussion and direction. I'll turn it over to our city manager or assistant city manager. Go ahead, City Manager Black. We're going to turn it over to ACM Conley.
All right, so I think we're doing a real quick presentation this evening. So good evening, Chair, City Council members, Nalongo Conley, Assistant City Manager, here with Florida Cruz, Assistant Director of Finance. I'm here to do a quick presentation on the option that you voted on at the June 9th meeting. And so this option is option 3, which had modifications. And so we will be covering the necessary steps that we had to take to present a balanced budget, and then also following up on some of the other directions that you gave. Oh, good. Next slide. So just to jump right in, this was the council direction that you gave at the June 9th meeting. So that was option 3 with modifications. So that was approval of the elimination of 44 vacant FTEs, as well as the additional 10 FTE positions that were or will be eliminated by mid-year. It also included adoption of the original recommendations by the Measure P committee of the $706,000, and then not approving the additional 1.52 million. I'm sorry, it includes the original budgeted amount of $706,000 that Measure P committee approved, and the non-recommended items of 1.52 million, and then the removal of the flock contract from Measure P approval of $302,000. It also approved the investment income transfer of $3.01 million from the fiscal year 24-25, 25-26, and then the projected 26-27 amount into the general fund. And then it approved the $1.93 million from the share of contract savings from the general liability fund to be moved back to the general fund. And then the remaining $1.7 million will return to the Measure P. And then you approved a transfer of $250,000 to the CIP budget for marina dredging. And then you also asked us to include some revenue projections to make up for the $1.7 million in funding that was returned to Measure P, using the fee schedule that will hopefully be approved in the July meetings for planning, fire prevention, and parking. So this is a line item budget that just outlines the scenarios that we just talked about. And so as you see with some of the other priorities that we added at the last minute, the deficit ballooned to about $31.28 million. You'll see the scenario 3 was what we proposed, but council direction was scenario 3 with modifications. And so you'll see some of the adjustments made in blue to those line items. And so more up-to-date numbers just increase what we believe the vacancy management and attrition savings amount. The targeted position reduction, that difference between scenario 3 and what council direction is the addition of the 10 positions. Everything else remains the same, and then when you go down to the sort of one-time measures, you have the transfer of the Measure P investment income, which is the $3.01 million, and then the refund of the general liability amount, which is $1.93 million. And then when you go down, you'll see that the projection for the revenue for planning and for fire is approximately $960,000. And so again, we were able to balance the budget based on the council direction of option number 3 with modifications. Next slide, please. So as you note, there'll be a reduction of general funded positions. As you see, we go from 463 down to 410. The other staffing that are funded from other funds stays the same. Oh, thank you. And so this is just a graphical representation of the 54 position reduction. But we did add a position to support POAC. So instead of the 54, it ends up being a 53 position reduction. Next slide. So this is just going over the Measure P since we've done some movement between the two. So as of July 1st, we anticipate having a beginning balance in the Measure P fund of $7.25 million. We have an anticipated tax revenues for the next fiscal year of $18.42 million. We have expenditures, known expenditures at this time of $11.47 million. So we expect to end the next fiscal year with about $14.2 million in the Measure P fund. So the next, I believe, 2 slides just covers what was funded through Measure P. And so you'll see here, this first slide is the $760,000 as part of the strategy that you approved, which shifts those costs from the general fund to Measure P. Sorry, next slide. And then these were all the other asks that were approved through the Measure P committee, both for next year and some outlier years, with the total being approximately $11.47 million. And so that concludes the presentation of sort of the option 3 with modifications that the council approved at the last meeting, and we're happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you very much. I'm going to go ahead and open up the public hearing, and we'll take our public commenters, and then we'll move to questions and comments from the city council. Let's start with our in-person speakers.
Yes, we have a extensive list here. The first 3 speakers are RJC, Will Maltez, and KG, in that order.
Wasn't expecting to go first.
And you can, if you'd like, you can raise up the podium right there. Yeah.
Ooh. All right. Hello, my name is RJ. I live in District 5. At the City Council meeting on June 9th, members of the community, including myself, came forward and urged the Council to strongly reconsider funding for Flock with our sales tax via Measure P, as well as the entire Flock system itself. Tonight we return to continue to voice our concerns, our fears, our complete opposition to the Flock system. At the June 9th meeting during Second Community Forum, I stated that our community has already started a list of surveillance alternatives, and on June 10th, I emailed a portion of that list to the council, the city clerk's office, and the city manager's office. Those items are as follows. A respectful police agency, no over-policing of black and brown people, community workshops to meet the police who patrol our neighborhoods during community accessible hours, localized response networks and more community response teams similar to iHeart, safe people to rely on, the ability to feel safe and unafraid when calling for specialized help, such as mental health or developmentally disabled adult needs, and trust and connection with others. But there are more submissions, such as enforcement from a democratic state, not private organizations, and transparency and good communication that are important for the council to hear. Both the Council and Surveillance Advisory Board have expressed a desire to hear from more community members on Flock. Unfortunately, these meetings aren't exactly accessible. With the last meeting, as an example, we started at about 7:15, budget discussions at approximately 9, with public comment at approximately 9:30 to 9:40. The meeting was adjourned at almost 1 a.m. In order for more community to come interact with the meetings and share their thoughts, many need babysitters or caretakers, ride assistants, a friend or group to come with them for safety, either personal safety or out of fear of retaliation. And even then, many need to leave before the agenda item they've been waiting for because it's gotten so late. This is not to say you should not want to hear from more people, but is an example as to why you may not. But every person in Vallejo I've had the pleasure of speaking with agrees. They don't want this. They don't want to be watched, logged, or searchable in a database when they're just going to work, taking their kids to school, getting groceries, going to visit a friend, or coming to a city council meeting. Having never committed a crime by a police force, that's hard to trust. And in a community and a company that fails to be trustworthy, transparent, and secure at every turn. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Will Maltez.
Hello, Mayor, council members, good evening. My name is William Maltez out of District 6. I believe that is you, Councilmember Gordon. Nice meeting you. Or nice putting a face to all the names I always see on the ballots. This is my first time outside of performing that civic duty. Here to voice some opinions of mine, or the feelings, I guess, that have been going on. I am right now in the 5th year, I believe, going on 6 years. First time home buyer, having a home in Vallejo. Decided to raise my family here. 2 small children. And not sure what that noise was. Not to worry, we shall continue. 2 small children under the ages of 7, go on a walk every day. I think it was about June 10th, I've noticed Flock cameras in my neighborhood. I live on a very small side street. I know about 12 of the neighbors on my street, one of which is here with me. We walk the block, we have conversations, we stand outside. We have a real strong sense of community in my area. And I wouldn't say what we didn't like, well, I can only speak on myself. I didn't like having 6 Flock cameras in about a 3-block radius. There's very limited police activity, very limited crime in my particular area. I don't feel the need to be surveilled at all times. And the main point is, not only do I have small children, I live right next to a school that just opened up. We went to the grand opening. It's the Beverly Hills Elementary. It's the Rise, I believe. And to have 2 flock cameras right there on their property, as well as 3 surrounding that area, to me, it seems a bit of an overstep. If surveillance or if the police would like to come and maybe you send a patrol car through, I'm okay with that. Let's put boots to the ground. However, for me to walk around my neighborhood, everyone's gonna know that in that system, at 5:30 p.m., Mr. Maltez goes on a walk. I don't know who has access to it. You know, there's other issues in terms of the security of who we do business with in terms of surveillance. I know it may not go anywhere. I'm just here to voice my opinion in saying that I don't like to be surveilled. I do not have no criminal history, neither does any of my family members, and to me it just feels as though someone is watching me when I just want to enjoy my time here in the city of Vallejo. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Next speaker is KG.
Do I need to? Okay, I don't need to press anything.
If you want to raise the podium, you can on your lower right. There's a little toggle switch if you want to raise it up. Yep.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Thank you. I am KG. My family has had ties to Vallejo since my great-grandfather. He helped in the 1910s with the dry dock. My grandfather taught on Mare Island, and I remember walking up those stairs up to the library when I was smaller than the fountain. So this is a very important place to me. And I'm coming here as a community member and as someone from a military family. I see this as a disturbing attack on freedom. You know, a creature observed doesn't behave the same way when it is unobserved. So a surveillance state increases pressure and makes things more likely to happen. It increases pressure and there's no way to relieve it. It's not going to actually fix any of these problems. Like we already know that going out and investing in the community and the social safety nets does prevent crime. We know that taking care of people does prevent crime. Playing with these new toys with the flock camera that are barely audited, that don't exactly fix anything, that's not going to fix staffing issues, that's not going to fix trust issues between the police and the community. It's not going to fix a lack of integrity and will to do the job. Because we've had these problems since before we had all this new tech and we were able to do it. It depends on the actual drive to do the job. And these are actually fundamentally un-American toys because, you know, constant surveillance, like that, how is that freedom, you know? And also these technologies are not coming from Vallejo themselves. These are just people trying to make money off of us. They are not invested in the well-being of Vallejo the same way community members who start things to, community members would, like those who try to actually keep kids off the streets, you know, help give some training, stuff like that. So I think that's just about it. I will end with a quote. Those who would give up essential liberty to purchase a little temporary safety deserve neither. And that's from Benjamin Franklin.
Thank you very much.
Next speaker is Shay G. After Shay G, the order of speakers are Eric McGovern, Kirk Smith, and Judith Lerner.
Good evening, Mayor Soros, members of the City Council. I'm here to speak on the budget allocation for surveillance technology and the ongoing financial impact of the flock camera surveillance, especially the contracts. We are people, we are not data points. As a Vallejo resident, I choose to reside in Vallejo and not on flock's infrastructure. At last week's Surveillance Advisory Board meeting, there were assurances that the data belongs to the City of Vallejo. However, as the ACLU informs us, Flock continues to make significant changes to its contractual terms, which diminishes the control which cities and towns have over their own data. This shifts the power from customers like the City of Vallejo, putting it into the FLOC's control. As of February 14th, there are 4 changes that stand out. The language that FLOC does not own and shall not sell customer data is now absent. The language in the control over data in the new license, while granting formal legal ownership of the data to the customer, grants the company the exclusive right to determine and to control the method, timing, format, and medium of the access to the data that supposedly belongs to the customer. This undermines the entire idea of ownership. There is no expiration date on the data. The terms and conditions now state, even after a town, city, or other customer has terminated its relationship with FLOC, that FLOC can continue to use customer data to support and improve its services. The new contract also expands FLOC's protections against liability or willful misconduct or gross negligence, potentially shifting the costs of data breaches and other failures from the company to the taxpayers. We need to be aware of these changes and look at them very closely to ensure that the Fourth Amendment rights of the people of Vallejo are protected. Of course, the best way to represent our interests is to not install FLOC surveillance in the first place. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Eric McGovern.
Hello, Mayor Source and council members. I came to last city council meeting and discussed a number of concerns about FLOC cameras. A quick summary of the questions I asked in that meeting were: 1, is anyone elected, appointed, or hired by the city getting security audits of FLOC and other surveillance systems used by the city? And 2, is there an ability to review every search as well as every person accessing data from the cameras in the city of Vallejo? If so, will this be implemented? Those questions, as of the last Surveillance Advisory Board meeting, are beginning to be answered by the SAB. I come here today with more existential questions. Why is the City of Vallejo, as well as other jurisdictions, think it is suitable to license large numbers of cameras positioned throughout their city to capture data for a rolling 30-day period? That data, which when searched in aggregate, paints a picture of the day-to-day lives of the people of Vallejo and other communities. Why, in the last few years, are cameras being used in multiple places for identity verification? In airports, for bars, and in the streets? In recent months, a number of articles are pushing for age verifications of large portions of the internet itself. Where was the public debate on this? Where did we decide as a society to reduce our right to privacy to such an extent? In the face of rapidly increasing surveillance of the public, what is the world that we want? Do we want a world where our collective institutions have degraded to such an extent that we are resorting to mass surveillance to provide a sense of safety in a community? I hope not. The City Council discussed having a joint SAB and POAC meeting to discuss FLOC cameras. I hope in hosting that joint meeting that there is a frank and honest discussion about the ramifications of using cameras to manage public safety and to gather alternative solutions from multiple perspectives. El Cajon PD in California is being sued right now by the California Attorney General for sharing license plate data willingly with out-of-state agencies in opposition to SB 34. Based on this and other news articles of other police departments using surveillance systems in ways that are against regulations or past laws, it brings into question whether surveillance systems such as FLOC are inherently unable to be regulated. I am done slow walking into a mass surveillance police state. Aren't you?
Thank you.
Next speaker is Kirk Smith.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of the council, city staff. My name is Kirk Smith, President and CEO of Visit Vallejo Convention and Visitors Bureau. I'm speaking tonight on behalf of our lodging community, representing the 22 hotels and motels that serve as Vallejo's front door for visitors, businesses, travelers, event attendees, and families. First, I want to acknowledge that many in our lodging community have noticed the improvements in public safety over recent months, and we appreciate the efforts that have been made. The recent partnership with the Solano County Sheriff's Office appears to have helped improve response times and increase visibility throughout the city. However, there is a growing concern about what happens when that agreement ends and discussions surrounding the potential elimination of sworn officer positions as part of the 54 or 53 FTE cuts in the budget. Respectfully, eliminating sworn officer positions currently filled or unfilled as a budget reduction measure is a mistake. Public safety is not separate from economic development. Public safety is economic development. Businesses do not invest, visitors do not book hotel rooms, and families do not plan vacations in communities where they don't feel safe. We have made meaningful progress over the last 18 and 24 months in public safety as the aforementioned response time reductions. It would be unfortunate to take one step forward and then 3 steps back. We need to continue the momentum and the continuity of where we are heading, and the direction we're heading in public safety and generating consumer confidence in Vallejo. One of our premier hotel operators shared with me over the last several months they've experienced a high volume of car and truck break-ins, which is hampering their occupancy efforts. Another hotel recently shared with me as of this morning that a Denver-based company chose not to stay in Vallejo because of safety concerns. That decision resulted in approximately $3,000 in lost hotel revenue, and you can do the math on TOT and VBID assessments. Another group, a racing organization that was participating in an event at Sonoma Raceway, moved a 10-day stay booked at one of our area hotels to Petaluma over safety concerns. That single loss represented 194 room nights lost and more than $21,000 in revenue. And again, you can do the math on the TOT. These are just not statistics. These are real business cases. Real businesses losing revenue because of how Vallejo is perceived. And I don't need to tell you the loss of TOT revenue and that impact. Finally, the momentum we've seen is tremendous, and the direction we're heading is north. We encourage the City Council to take a look at the potential elimination of positions and to not eliminate any of those positions within the public safety arena. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you.
Our last speaker that's listed is Judith Lerner.
Yep.
I guess I'm short. So I heard the last speaker was talking about safety, and I think for many people the idea of flock is that it enhances safety, and that is something that we all want. But in order to have safety, we have to have trust. We can't have trust between the citizens and the police unless there's transparency. And flock is not transparent. We don't know who's getting the data. We don't know, you know, there's supposed to be an audit. We don't know who will do the audit. We also don't trust that flock itself won't share data with who knows who. So that idea of safety is something we all want, but we can't have safety without trust. And right now, we don't trust flock. So I'd ask you to consider that as you consider safety. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Those are all the people we have listed in person.
All right, let's go to our online speakers.
Thank you, Mayor. We do have one member online with their hand raised. Crystal Gallegos, please unmute yourself. You have the floor. Crystal Gallegos, please unmute yourself. You have the floor. One more time. Crystal, please unmute yourself. You have the floor. Okay, hand raised, but she's not responding.
All right, we will, if that's our only online speaker, I think we gave, I wish we could get Cristal, but if she's not unmuting.
I think she's trying to log back in, so
Okay.
she just logged out.
Why don't we just give her a second? And actually, while we do that, I don't have to close public comment yet. Do any council members have questions or comments to start with? And I'll actually say to many of our speakers that I'm going to save my comments on flock for when this comes back, because this will come back barring some different decision from what we did at the last council meeting. And I know that there is conversation about the special meeting that's going to be had with the SAB and the Police Oversight Commission. So we'll make sure that those get publicized so members of the community can participate. I will turn it over to Councilmember Bergenzer.
Yes, thank you for the presentation. Can we talk about, I didn't see in the presentation the participatory budgeting and the special city events. Was that cut from the budget? Is that in the budget? Is it still a shared item between the two? Can we just get some clarity on that?
Yes, no, those are both still in the budget. They're combined. But they're both funded at their sort of normal historic levels. So participatory budgeting is budgeted for $500,000 and events is budgeted for $500,000.
Okay,
On the
but
balancing
excuse
summary.
me, but the participatory budgeting should be $1 million because the $500,000 was from last year, was carried over, supposed to be carried over to this year because they took a pause for a year. So there should be $1 million, and then the event should be $500,000.
So participatory budgeting wasn't actually funded last year. It was cut at the last minute. So it was the $500,000 from previous, but they didn't get funded last year.
So would that money still carry forward?
So-
I guess I'm confused.
We don't carry that money forward. We close out and then we baseline our budget going forward. So we didn't add on an additional $500,000. And given the budget deficit, we thought that you would just continue to fund them at their normal level of $500,000 and then city events for $500,000.
Okay, that was, I guess that was not my understanding. I would like to propose that we continue that to be the 1 million. Just I understand the 500,000 per year, but we had made a promise to that commission or that group to have $1 million because they took that year of a pause. So I would like to still propose that we keep that 1 million and then keep the special events at 500,000. If the rest of the council agrees, we can make that as part of the motion. Then the other thing I'd like to bring up is the funding, the $350,000, I think it was, for the asset management, economic development, and for the contract broker. I think that was something that was brought to Measure P, and they had rejected it. And I wasn't sure if that was then, when we agreed to fund the things that were not approved by Measure P, was that one of the items that was approved for funding, or is that still need a separate item?
No, so those two items were not funded by Measure P or the council as the option 3. I believe that they took forward, it was $200,000 for the asset manager and then $200,000 for the broker.
Okay.
350, 400
Yeah.
around there.
So that would be the other amendment that I would ask the council to look at, is amending the proposed budget to include the $350,000 for the economic development portion, both the asset management and the contract broker. Thank you.
Go ahead, City Manager.
Yeah, I just want clarification. Would those two items be covered through additional Measure P funding?
In my eyes, economic development is considered under Measure P, so, and it's not a salary, it's the contract broker, so I would think that that would be covered under Measure P.
Yeah, and so the only reason why I asked that question is because we would remain balanced as a result of
Correct. So we would need to attribute the 850 to Measure P is what you were suggesting. Okay.
Yes.
Councilmember Palmares.
Thank you for the presentation, and I agree with Councilmember Bergenzer with regard to the addition of the asset manager and the broker. Much needed for economic development in the city. And I already asked you this offline, but I'd just like to ask you, bring it up publicly, but just confirming that the CFD 2005 1A facilities, that's part of, or the freeze rather, is part of this budget. Is that
Yes.
correct? Okay, thank you so much.
All right, Councilmember Gordon.
Yes, I just wanted to confirm. I do agree with Councilmember Peter Bergenzer that I did hear the same thing that regarding the PB funds, because I thought that there was a hold, we couldn't do anything, we couldn't move forward. So I was under the thought that we were going to be having money add to it. And so we would have, like he stated earlier, I'm only repeating that because I am one of the liaison person over it. So I just want to make sure that that information is clear. And if we could revisit and do some investigation through the city manager to see that information be accurate and be correct, please. Because they had a hit, we couldn't do anything, we couldn't move forward. So if you could please revisit that, I'd appreciate that.
All right, I'm not seeing any other hands from council. Let's check with Cristal one more time, and then I'll close public comment.
Cristal, if you still wanted to speak, please unmute yourself. You have the floor. She does not have her hand raised.
All right, we will close public comment then. We'll close the public hearing and do one last check for council questions or comments. I'm going to double check and make sure Councilmember Matias doesn't have anything because we cannot see him on the screen. I'm presuming that he does not. Does he have his hand raised? Go ahead.
I don't have anything to say
Okay.
right this minute.
Thank you. All right, we may be ready for a motion then. Okay, go
Mayor,
ahead.
may I say one thing before,
Yeah.
before you make your motion? So there are multiple things going on with this particular item, and I just wanted to make sure that we're all on the same page. So you make your motion to adopt the budget. Now, there's a second piece of this, introducing the ordinance ratifying the city funds. And this is one of the things at the end of the meeting that we're going to need to adjourn the meeting to June 30th. So I just wanted to make sure that we're all aware of that and that we do that at the end. But you will make, part of your motion needs to be to introduce the ordinance as well, not just adopt the
Okay,
budget.
should we do that in two separate
You can
motions,
absolutely do
or
that in
we
two
can do it
separate
all at
motions.
once?
Yes, you can do it in two. That would make it very clear, yes.
Okay.
Madam Mayor, did you close the public hearing?
We did close the public hearing, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, do you want to go ahead and introduce the ordinance to ratify the city funds?
Yes, I move that we introduce an ordinance to ratify the city's funds.
And if that's all we need, we will do a roll call vote.
Councilmember McGinzer,
Yes.
Gordon,
Aye.
Lediju. Aye. Okay. Matias,
Yes.
Palmieri,
Aye.
Source,
Yes.
Matulik.
Aye.
The motion carries unanimously.
All right, thank you. So we've introduced that ordinance to ratify the city funds, and we will do the second step of that at our next meeting. We're now looking for our motion for the budget. Councilmember Warden, you have oh, go ahead, City Manager Black.
No, staff was just pointing out to me what I had asked the councilman, and he responded with a response that those two additional items would be covered via Measure P funding. So that would be additional Measure P funding to cover those two items. Thank you.
The
They
vote
haven't
we
voted-
just
they
did
haven't
was
done it
just
yet.
for the
They
introduction
haven't
of the
done it yet.
ordinance, and
They
then we're
haven't
going to do
done
the
it
big budget vote now.
Yeah.
Yes, all right, we are ready for a motion.
Yes, I move we hold a public hearing and adopt a resolution relating to the fiscal year 2026 to 2027 budget and related actions, any additional actions based on council direction, and introduction of an ordinance to ratify all city funds.
And then, go ahead, Councilmember
And I would like
Ganser.
to make a friendly or a second motion to include that, but also to include an additional 500,000 for participating budgeting and 350,000 for asset management and contract broker.
And just to be clear,
To be covered by Measure P funds.
just to be clear, the 500,000 for PB is in addition to what is in here.
Correct.
Okay. Councilmember Ledger, you have a clarifying question, and then we got to vote.
So we're proposing to add additional 500,000, and what I want to ask is, there have been times where there have been funds for the PB, and actually there was no activity and the dollars weren't used. So my question is, while we're adding an additional 500,000, do we actually have activity for those additional dollars that have been
There-
outlined and
There-
literally
yes.
a list?
Yeah, there are. The committee has been meeting, and they have a list of projects. In fact, I believe that it's still open for additional projects to come in. But also, as course correction from this council in the past, if that funding, the 500,000, is not used by participatory budgeting, then it would go back to Measure P if it's not spent.
So what's the timeline? Because the reason I'm asking that question.
Each fiscal year, the participatory budgeting happens each fiscal year.
No, I get that it happens each fiscal year, and I'm not arguing that it's happening. I just know in the past, even before coming on council and watching prior council, those dollars weren't always used. So if you're adding, what is it, an additional, it's going to be $1 million. So my question is, and I think it's really important, do we have $1 million worth of activity that's going to happen?
Yes.
Because if not, that money can be used somewhere else, and that's the only point I'm making.
Yeah, no,
And
I
I'm only asking
I
that
agree with you, but there is a list,
respectfully.
and again, the project list is still open, the idea list is still open. But again, if the money is not needed by participatory budgeting, then we would return that money to Measure P.
And so can we consider having a certain timeline that, not a whole fiscal year, if you don't have an actual list where by a certain time, you see what I'm saying?
No, I agree, and
Okay.
yeah, the project, the list does close, and then the council votes, the community votes, and then they list the items that have been approved, and those items get funded, and at that point, and I'm not sure exactly how far in the fiscal year that happens, but once that happens, then remaining money would be turned back over.
Okay. That's just my only point
Yeah,
of
it's not just
contention.
ongoing continuously. They do have, each cycle closes, and
Okay.
all the projects are completed in that cycle.
Thank you for the
Okay,
clarity.
Councilmember Gordon, if you have a clarifying question, otherwise
No,
we're
my
going to have to vote.
colleague clarified.
All
It's a
right.
voting process.
Yep. All right, let's go ahead and do the roll call vote on this then.
Mayor, so I'm clear, the motion is, you're actually in this motion adopting the resolutions for recommendation 1 and 2, correct? As
With the
amended.
changes, was it, I think at
It
this
was an
point it's an alternate
alternate
motion.
motion, yeah.
So it's the resolutions as stated with the changes for the asset manager funded by Measure P in the amount of $300,000 or $350,000 and $500,000 for participatory budgeting also funded through Measure P.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Councilmember Gordon.
Aye.
Councilmember Legidew. Councilmember Matias.
Yes.
Councilmember Palmaris.
Aye.
Mayor Soares.
No.
Vice Mayor Matulik.
Aye.
And Councilmember Brigenzer.
Yes.
Motion carries with Mayor Soares opposed.
All right. Do we have anything else? Did we include the vehicle purchases there? Was that included, or do we need another motion? Was that all of numbers 1 through 3? The three
I believe,
resolutions?
yes. Yeah, I believe it was all 3 resolutions.
All right. With that, we are going to go ahead and close the budget item, and we will move backwards on our agenda forwards to item 9B, and I'll ask our city clerk to announce. Actually, do we want to take a short recess?
Yes.
Okay. Why don't we go ahead and take 10 minutes, and then we'll come back and we'll hear the capital improvement plan.
I'm telling you, this footrest is amazing. I requested because I have blood clot. Oh, that's good. Yeah. It's got my name on it too. And a trash can. So I have a blood clot. That's why this leg is swollen. Yeah. Right here. Let me go to the restroom. I don't know what her problem is.
and get back to our meeting. As soon as we have 4 of us up here that are paying attention, we are good. We will go ahead and resume order, and we will move to action item B, which if the city clerk's ready, I'll ask you to announce it. Otherwise, I can announce it, because are you ready?
Hold a public hearing and adopt resolutions accepting the 5-year capital improvement programs for fiscal years 26-27 through 2030-31 for the Public Works and Water Departments.
All right, thank you. So I'm going to turn it over to staff for a presentation. Then we'll open the public hearing, take public comment, and do council questions and comments. Same format as before. I see we have our Public Works Director. Should I kick it over straight to him? Go ahead, Director Job.
Good evening, Council, Mayor. Pleasure to be in front of you tonight. And proud to present the 2026-27 Capital Improvement Program. We have a lot of work planned for next year, and happy to explain to you what that is. Next slide. So I'll give you an overview. And the CIP is a multi-year planning tool that helps us identify the things in the city that are big, costly, and need to be fixed or built. And so that's to identify capital projects, anything that requires multi-year planning. We estimate the costs, so then we can do work on trying to identify funding sources for that work, and then we set implementation priorities. Tonight, we're talking about appropriating only the budget for the upcoming fiscal year, and the CIP that I've presented to you has the outlying 4 years, so you can see what we have planned for the succeeding years, but the decision right tonight is only for this fiscal year. Next. So our priorities are regulatory compliance, reducing the city's liabilities, seizing on grant opportunities, trying to cooperate and collaborate with our neighbors and other agencies, ensuring and enhancing public safety and services, improving, replacing, or extending the life of existing assets, and then complying with the general plan. Next. So we took the CIP to the Planning Commission, and all CIP projects must conform to the city's general plan. They considered those on May the 4th, and they approved that they were all in compliance with the general plan for a total of 55 projects. So I'm going to explain the new appropriations for this year. And so in total, we're hoping to spend $13.5 roughly million. We're asking for $1 million in capital outlay that's transferred from the general fund to Public Works, $1 million in Measure P funds. We're anticipating receipt of $4.8 million in gas funds. We're transferring $200,000, requesting transfer of $200,000 in Hidden Brook LMD reserves to Public Works to do traffic calming. There's a $6.6765 million Hidden Brook overpass fee that we're hoping to transfer from reserve. And then also we're hoping to spend $91,000 on the Northgate fee district on the Admiral Callahan widening. And then we're doing a little bit of internal restructuring on a couple of funds. So we have some Glen Cove bond funds. One project got completed, had some leftover balance, and we're just transferring that to the Glen Cove Parkway improvements. And similarly, we have some excess project funds from waterfront history and trash receptacle funds that we're transferring to the Waterfront Revival Program. Next. So the $1 million in capital outlay, this is really important. So we need to spend $100,000 to update our ADA transition plan. And if we do not do that, we will cease to be eligible for federal funding. And so it's just critical that we get that work done to maintain eligibility for the funding for Springs Road, for instance. And then we're asking for $900,000 to fund public building repairs, which would include anything in the city, fire stations, City Hall, Public Works, all of that. And we're also asking for $1 million in Measure P funds for traffic calming throughout the city. We're anticipating receipt of $4.8 million in gas tax funds, and so $3.3 million of that is going to be spent on streets, striping, curb ramps, and guardrails. About $400,000 will be sidewalks, about $400,000 will be solar street lights, and $700,000 will be replacing street signs that have aged, either lighted street signs or just unilluminated street signs. We're requesting to transfer $200,000 from the Hidden Brook LMD reserve assessment. And we've worked pretty closely with the community out there to come up with some good traffic calming plans. We're going to install some elevated crosswalks at the entrance gate. They had a recent accident where a drunk driver ran into the guard shack. And so we've been collaborating with the community out there, and I think they're pretty happy with the plan we have. And we want to implement that for $200,000. Also in Hidden Brook is a more complicated project, which is a Hidden Brook overpass. And so we have almost got a complete design for a roundabout for the intersection of Hidden Brook and the off-ramp on 80. However, in our negotiations with Caltrans now tells us they want us to build 2 of those. That's a complication in that the other one is not even in Solano County nor within the city limits of Vallejo. So we're hoping to negotiate our way back to just 1 roundabout. That being said, we have $6.6 million for it, and our current engineer's estimate is about $7.5. And so we're going to have to do a little bit of research and find some money to make this happen this year. But it is our desire. It's worth noting that there have not been any fatal traffic accidents in roundabouts in California in a decade. And so it's not that it reduces the number of traffic accidents, it just dramatically reduces the severity of them. And so I'm really a big advocate of roundabouts. Next. So we're hoping to do a little bit of zero-cost fund changing. So there was a Glen Cove Bike Trail project that got completed, had a leftover balance of $26,000. We're hoping to transfer that into the Glen Cove Parkway Improvements Phase 2, which is improving the median strip there on Glen Cove Parkway and doing some plantings and landscaping. They're also hoping to send roughly $92,000 to Admiral Callahan widening. Most of that's been paid for by the Costco project, but we do have our cost share in that as well, and so that will represent the city's investment in that. We're also hoping to shuffle some money around in the waterfront history art funds, and so we had a $25,000 balance in trash enclosures at public facilities and a $41,715 balance in the waterfront park. And we're hoping to combine those two to the waterfront revival improvements, which includes installation of some exercise equipment out on the waterfront. I'll just say from my personal experience, my wife loves the one in American Canyon. It will do a lot to draw more visitors to the waterfront. And I'll update you on the street projects that we have. So with the early rains last year, all the work, the 2025 Measure P money didn't get spent because of rain. So we just completed the Cape Seal process, and so that's going around and really waterproofing roads that have become alligator cracked, and to try to keep the water out of the pavement. That's the most important thing you can do to keep it from getting potholed. And so it's kind of like preventive maintenance. And so we're spending about half of the funding on preventive maintenance and about half on restoration. And so the Cape Seal project is done except for new striping, grind and overlay. So if you drive up either Georgia or Tennessee or parts of Redwood, you'll see all kinds of new curb ramps and new curb and gutter. So anytime you're making a pie, you got to make the pie crust first, and so that's a curb and gutter. And so we're out there doing that. Sometime in the next couple of months, we'll be starting to mill and overlay asphalt on those roads. And I'm certain that that will be very much appreciated by the residents of the city. And then what we're asking for 26 is money to do additional curb ramps, to do additional Cape Seal, and to do additional grind and overlay. And so that money was allocated last year. The contracts have been advertised, and we're going to be coming to you very soon seeking to award those. And so if we're lucky, we'll get that work put on the ground this year. If we have but who knows, with an El Nino winter, we might have a early onset of rain again, so we might have to drag the construction out to next year. Let's hope not, but it's our aspiration to get the work done this year. And so finally, so we have a project for street and pavement maintenance rehabilitation. This is a project that funds our Jet Patcher contractor pothole filler that you might have seen in the newspaper article, and really essential for kind of filling in the cavities. Next. And then this is a continued list of paving projects. And so grind and overlay. So we're going to do South Regatta from Glen Cove Parkway to halfway down Regatta Drive, roughly. Capitol Street from Sacramento to Sonoma Boulevard, which it desperately needs that. And then the rest of these are intersections that have become fairly deteriorated, and so we need to put down asphalt on those so we can then replace the striping. The asphalt is so bad that the striping won't stay on it. And so these are really meant to do safe streets measures to improve those intersections, so then we can go out and get mark the crosswalks and put stop letters down on the street and everything. And so this is a continuation of those all the way down to Baywood and Glen Cove and Regatta Drive. The Springs Road improvements, so those are all being funded by federal grants. And so you remember me talking about we need to update the ADA transition plan. That has to happen in order for us to maintain our eligibility for this funding. And then finally, there's a Hidden Brook overpass, and the design for that is almost complete. As I said, the preliminary numbers from the designers are that we're about $1 million shy from what we have in the fund to what we need to construct it. We will try to do some value engineering on that, and maybe we'll be coming back to Measure P or trying to find some other partner to fund that. All right, so here's the good and the bad news. So as you guys have read many times in the newspaper, Vallejo has the worst pavement condition index of any city in the Bay Area, overall composite PCI of 43. Assuming we spend roughly $12.9 million a year for the next 10 years of Measure P, our estimates are that the PCI is only going to increase to 51. It's not for lack of aspiration, not for lack of desire. It's just expensive, and asphalt is getting more expensive by the day as the price of oil has gone up. The real bottom line of that is even spending that $120.9 million over the next 10 years, we still estimate that there's going to be $333 million in deferred maintenance on roads in Vallejo in 2036. It's worth noting that there's probably $1.2 billion, $1.5 billion worth of capitalized value in all that asphalt, so it's very expensive to put it there in the first place. So we have to do everything we can to maintain it. We have had a past practice of trying to spread the money as evenly throughout the city as possible. My career with the Forest Service, I was always required to spread money, and it was always spread it evenly. Well, the thing is, if you spread the peanut butter too thin, nobody gets a sandwich. And so we're going to be going back and looking at our allocation method and saying, is it better to spend money on the roads that have the very lowest pavement condition index? Or is it really going to make the most sense for us to get the ones that are 51 and above with the Cape seal, or something like that? So you have a new engineering team. Glenn March, you haven't got to meet him yet, but he's the new city engineer. Lots of experience, and we've got some really great engineers on the staff. And so we're going to put our heads together and do our very best to allocate this money as efficiently as possible, but there's always going to be circumstances that come up. We pay the Metropolitan Transportation Commission to do our pavement condition index measurements every year, and we give that information to our consultant, and they come back and they give us their independent assessment of where that money ought to be spent. We keep a list of where we get all the complaints, and we try to buffer that, the consultant's list with where everybody's complaining and do our best to balance. And so that's kind of how it gets allocated now, but you have my solemn promise that we're going to do our very best to make it as efficient as possible. And some other project updates. So the public safety building. So we will be done with the design on that, the new police department building, in July. We're expecting to get that, the final designs, I think July 21. The preliminary cost is $128 million. We have done value engineering throughout that process. It's a very nice building. It serves many community functions. It's not just a simple police department. And so there's a lot of aspect to it that does cost money. That being said, we're hoping to find some way to finance it through a public-private partnership.
If I may interject, I think that particular item is going to require additional council discussion, because the basic question that will need to be answered is, highest and best use of that amount of money. What do you really want to do with that money? Okay, we've just talked about roads and other things. So I think we're not making any recommendations to you at this point.
Exactly. This is just an update. This is not a budgetary matter.
Yeah, just want to be clear on that.
Thank you for that clarification.
And then finally, talk to you a little bit about dredging. And so there is vast deferred maintenance at the Vallejo Marina. I have a couple of strategies to help work on that, and so you'll probably be hearing more about that in the not too distant future. There's about 500,000 cubic yards of granular material there that might be perfect for the widening of Highway 37. And when you look at the low-lying areas of Vallejo, it might be really great, especially considering all the sediment that's moved up the Napa River over the past 2 or 3 years from McClellan Ranch. I think we have an opportunity to create a sediment economy here that would help us both let Caltrans use material for Highway 37 widening. We are going to have to start planning and adapting for sea level rise. We've got a lot of wetlands that have degraded, and we could have a real opportunity for wetland mitigation banking and revenue generation through wetland mitigation banking. So hoping to find some opportunity to reutilize this dredge material in a beneficial way. And that's the end of my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So do we recommend going ahead and taking public comment or taking questions, or is?
Yeah, I think we may want to hear water as well.
Yeah, so so we have both Public Works and Water presenting, unless anyone has anything burning. Because I want to, yeah, what I'm more concerned with is taking waiting till the end to take public comment. So why don't we do this? Why don't we do a round of questions for Public Works? We'll hear Water, we'll do a round of questions for Water, we'll take public comment, and then we'll try to move straight to a vote, because I definitely don't want us to, I want to try to be as efficient as possible. So I'll go Councilmember Gordon, then Councilmember Palmares.
Thank you so much. I appreciate this report. Your analogy of the peanut butter, right? Yeah, you spread it and you might get a little, but at least somebody will get some sandwich. It's important to take care of all of Vallejo, you know. And then when you speak about, because District 6, we have a pothole so big that I can fit in it, even though I lost a little weight. That's not right. It doesn't make any sense that we, District 6, always have to wait, you know, and it's the brownest of the part of the city, and we have more potholes, we have neglected communities, abandoned buildings, and then when we talk about dredging the waterfront, you do know it goes all the way to the Carquinez Bridge. But we have boats sit there that's been there since, I live here since 2005. Now we have another boat. Now we have homeless, unhoused people in boats in District 6. Don't believe me, go to Durst Street, you'll see them. So I am very upset that only thing I do see that is in District 6 is Springs Road. Thank you so much for that. But there is business all throughout the city, inland. There's more than Glen Cove, there's more than Hidden Brook, and I do understand everyone needs their projects. But we have always been sitting at the last of the burner, and it's just not right. If we want to have real economic wealth, we need to remember it's more than Mare Island. There is other parts of Vallejo. And if we don't take care of all of Vallejo, we're going to be fixing here, then starting all over again. But if we do it all at one time, call that bring it in. You start here, bring it in. And that way all the Vallejo be benefited. So I have been living in District 6 when it was not a district, and South Vallejo always get neglected. So I encourage you to please revisit. I'll go on a tour with you, the city manager, so you can see we have a lot of potential. But no developer is going to come if it doesn't look presentable. And therefore, there's no money going to come in or out if we do not take care of all of the city of Vallejo. Thank you for letting me share.
Understood, Councilmember Gordon. And I can only say that I am 100% committed to being as equitable as humanly possible. And, you know, I think if we just look at doing the worst first, if the roads in South Vallejo are as bad as you say, then I think it would be a, you know, some rationale to spend more money on that part, in that part of the city.
Thank you so much. Right. Councilmember Palmares.
Thank you for presentation. What platform or what software platform does Public Works use for roads? Is it Street Saver?
I have not touched the software since I've got here. Today's my 58th day on the job.
Okay. Well, I know we use something, but whatever one we use, what I'm proposing, just a wild idea as far as, you know, you mentioned the 51 PCI over the span of whatever years, and that just doesn't seem like we're getting a whole lot of bang for a buck. I feel like we got to think more creatively about sustainability and the effectiveness of catching up with the PCI. But just throwing out some strategies, I mean, have we considered just being really aggressive with the road diets, the traffic calming, you know, taking out lanes? Because those miles add up, right?
Of course.
And if you slow down the roads or slow down the vehicles on those roads, you're theoretically extending the life cycle on that. And if you do that enough times throughout the city, you know, I feel like we have an opportunity to both catch up with our PCI, but also just make our streets a lot safer. But I mean, is that something we can model at a more scaled up level?
Certainly, and we have been talking about some innovative approaches. So one thing that might be worth looking at would be going to the Berkeley Marina, and you'll see that they have taken the parking aisles and they've removed the asphalt and they've put in a composite material with gravel. And so that does two things. One, you have a much less impermeable surface, so you have less stormwater deal with all of that. And then on top of that, it's just much less expensive to put gravel on top of a geogrid than it is to continually pave over and pave over and pave over. But that's a trade-off, right? Not everybody's going to like that aesthetic of looking, you know, so you know, there are creative things, but there's always going to be somebody who's going to object to it. Another idea that we had talked about was some type of, you know, road diet. So we had a really interesting presentation about maybe turning the median strip of 29 into a walkable space. I don't think Caltrans is ever going to be there for that, but it was a really creative idea. And so maybe we could do something like that on Tennessee, and instead of putting it in the median, take up 2 lanes and put in a nice bike, you know, a bike path there. That would also give you the road diet, reduce the amount of asphalt you got to put. That being said, we're just about to spend a ton of money on Tennessee, so I don't really want to go tear out 2 lanes that I just put down, right? But you know, maybe Redwood's an opportunity. So we are trying to look at ways to spend our money more wisely. But in the end, asphalt's just really expensive.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, the less asphalt we have to lay, the better. So I mean, I'm open to new creative ideas, and especially looking at these strategies as a way out.
Yeah, the Berkeley example is pretty neat. If you get a chance to look at it.
Absolutely, I'll check it out. Thank you.
Councilmember Letajou.
Thank you for your time. So this is not really to you directly, and it is to the council and to the city manager. You know, when we talk about the amount of money that we're investing in roads through Measure P, we are trying to make a dent. But the reality is, when we think about paying as we go, you know, we really are deferring maintenance because we can't cover enough road in a good period of time to do what we need to do to raise the index of our roads. And so really the question becomes, what is our real infrastructure needs, the total infrastructure needs, and how are we going to get that money? And we need to bond for those dollars to do the work. And it's not just, you know, having smaller lanes and doing all of that work. The reality is we still have to have our roads fixed. While we have bike lanes and other things, we still have to have our roads fixed. And we need to think about strategically as a policy-making body, as a city manager, how do we finance this work to get a good amount of work done throughout the city? And it goes to, again, something that Councilmember Gordon said. It's not just about District 6, it is about the entire city of Vallejo, the condition of our streets. We have the worst streets, and we all know it, and we have been trying to aggressively do what we can with Measure P. But the question is, can we take a portion of our Measure P dollars and bond against those dollars, our other dollars that we have set aside, and bond against that to move our streets along, to move the infrastructure? Because if we don't do anything differently than what we're doing pay as we go, all we are doing is deferring the maintenance, and we're never going to get there. And we really need to think about that as policymakers. what else are we going to do to get our streets in good condition? And there are methodologies to do that, you know. And I think both of my colleagues, Matias and Palmeris, has talked about the EFID districts. But you can't even do that if you don't have a way to do some of the bonding, because there are certain things that you need to do to begin to move that structure along as well. You know, so we need to think about how are we going to get this done and invest so that we can move forward in these areas to make our city better, to do the economic development. Safety and good roads equal economic development. So we need to stop, we need to really think about, do we really care about these things? So that's my comment to what you have brought forward, because to me the most important or the stark information given that we know about is we're paying $120.9 million over 10 years, and we still only reach a PCI of 51 by 2034. That's unacceptable when we have other ways to handle this. We can bond, and we need to really think about it.
Councilmember Bergenser.
Thank you, and I completely agree with your assessment on the bond, Councilmember Ledesju. I think we need to bring that forward and move this city forward. I think putting on a front of cleaner, safer, better roads makes the impression of the city for developers much stronger. I just have two questions. Hopefully they're simple. One is the waterfront, the solar lights that went up. I cannot thank you enough how dark it was on the waterfront to see those up. I noticed that they're every other pole. So is there a plan for the extra poles? Are we going to, is that the
That's the additional lighting money.
You're going to do additional lighting on those poles as well, or?
The money is for infill throughout the city, so it's not just for the waterfront. I think there's probably 6 or 8 down there, but there's dozens throughout the city that we want to replace.
I was wondering if that's part of the plan for the city banners or whatever that was part of. Is that part of those poles for that, or could we do something temporary to do like additional flags along the waterfront? Because you know when the ferry comes in, it would look really nice to have. Now we just have every other pole is just kind of standing there, and it looks a little silly. So if we can come up with a plan to fix or do something with those poles, that would be great. The other thing is, one of the first speakers talked about watering the landscape, and you talked about that you have plans for increasing landscaping along some of the parkways, and I'm just making sure that we have plans for watering that landscaping as part of your overall CIP plan.
Sure, and I can explain what happened with the watering, the plantings on top of the parking garage. So during the pandemic, the watering system got vandalized before the pandemic. Then ridership on the ferry plummeted. Receipts to the parking garage plummeted. Because the irrigation system was vandalized, we had a contractor going around and watering and taking care of everything. And when the parking receipts plummeted to nothing, we had to let the contractor go, and that's why all that stuff on the top deck died.
Sure, but now the ridership is back to before pre-pandemic ridership, so hopefully that money is back, and hopefully we can move forward and get that contractor back in place. I know, like when I walked to the parking garage, the 4 pine trees along the sidewalk are completely dead. They were huge, like 30-foot tall trees that now have to be removed and hopefully replanted. And so hopefully, we can get going on getting that watering. I mean, the summer's getting into full bloom here. So do we have a plan for the summer to get the water back up and running?
Yes, we do. So the crew's going to be out there next week or the week after, removing all the dead wood and
awesome.
dead growth. And then I don't know what we're going to do to replant those planter boxes. It's kind of inherently unsustainable to have planter boxes in a hot location like that without a good water supply. And so we were thinking maybe relocating the planter boxes to someplace where there is a more proximate water supply.
Okay. Thank you. No, that's great. Thank you. I'm glad you have a plan.
Thank you. I know City Manager Black, you wanted to get in.
Yeah, I just wanted to get back to the discussion on the roads. Yeah, I mean, the PCI is 41%, which is I've never heard of that before. I thought okay. I mean, in Stockton we were at 63%, and we were like we got a problem. But so I think I was suggesting earlier that it's going to come down to decision making. We'll know how much money we have, where it is, and then determining how you want to spend it. I've looked at this, I mean, because as I've been driving around the city, I mean, I see the 41%. I feel it, literally. And it blows my mind, actually. And so I've been doing some thinking about it. And so the number that I think we're going to be looking at from a bonding standpoint, you know, assuming that we can get there at some point, is going to be between $8 to $10 million a year to support probably 90 to $100 million worth of debt financing. But again, we're going to be talking about this at the staff level, thinking it through, figuring out, you know, what are our options? Because if you're at 41%, I mean, you don't want to go down, and it's hard to catch up. The farther you're down, the harder it is to catch up. You know, I mean, we spent in addition to our normal street repaving in Cincinnati, we did a supplemental capital investment, and we went from 64 to 66%. That's how hard it is, and that's how much investing you've got to do in it. So that, you know, so I only say that to say that it's on our radar. We recognize the critical nature of it, and we're going to be coming back to you with some thoughts and some ideas.
And I would just offer that, you know, with the things that are planned this year, Sonoma Boulevard, Tennessee, Springs, Georgia, Redwood, you know, hopefully we can talk the newspaper next year into saying we have the most improved pavement condition index rather than the worst.
Yeah, thank you. All right, we're going to go over to Councilmember Matias and then to the Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. Just want to start out thanking our new Public Works Director. Just 58 days. I know he's participated in 1,000,001 meetings and has tried to be solutions oriented and really dealing with some complex issues. I want to know for the record, the Hidden Brook projects that were listed in the presentation, those are coming out of the improvement fund that every taxpayer or every property owner in Hidden Brook pays for. So there's not one general fund dollar that are going into those projects. It is the residents themselves that are paying for that. So I want to thank you for that, because I know those projects go back at least a decade, each one of them, and they involve state agencies, and you've gotten in to the weeds and have tried to provide a path forward to the residents up there. So there's that. I want to make a general comment, and I spoke about this, and I got pretty animated at the last meeting. We have a lot of construction in my district, a lot of construction, and I just want to make sure that, you know, the roads that are sort of taking on that weight of all that construction that's happening are accounted for. I will say, and I know Beth is coming up shortly, the project on Goheen got underway, and just in the couple weeks that they were working, they had to repatch the other side of Goheen, I don't know how many times, because of all the trucks that were coming in and out. So just want all of the departments to really be mindful of that in my district in particular, because the construction will accelerate. It's not slowing down when you think about some of the projects that are coming down the pike. And then more specifically to the presentation that was shared out just now, to the director, public buildings. So last year we were asking if there were any dollars that were really accounting for any repairs for any buildings across the agency, and we didn't really get a definitive answer. So I guess just to follow up on that line I saw in the presentation, can you confirm that there is some monitoring, whether it's on spreadsheets, some piece of software that tracks maintenance that has to be done at each of our buildings, and is that sort of mapped out on a longer time horizon than on a year-to-year basis?
Yes, council member. So we do maintain a list of work orders for all of our buildings, and then, you know, some of them are just too expensive to do, right? So we need new HVAC here in City Hall. That's probably a $5 to $6 million price tag, and so that one's just going to sit there. On the other hand, the ones where, we have an exigent situation where we've got, water leak, things like that, we get right on those. And so that $900,000 is allocated to work on the backlog of work orders for building damages.
Thank you. Then the next question I have for you is, I think for the better part of a year, I've been asking for a cost out and an inclusion in the CIP of the repavement of all of our downtown lots. So every year we have all these events happening downtown, and yet you've got residents and visitors coming into our community and just having a whole experience trying to find a parking space. So where is that in the CIP?
So we do not have it in this year's CIP. There are proposed developments in that area by others that I am trying to leverage into them agreeing to upgrade our parking lots into proper green stormwater parking lots. So I don't know if I'll be successful in that negotiation, but we have made the request.
Yeah, so I would just, to the council, to my colleagues, I don't know if there's capacity. I would have to, it's a question for you, Director, and for City Manager Black, but we have to repave our downtown parking lots. It's unacceptable. They're in really poor condition. And it's not just the fact that we have to repave them. It's also about the appearance that we're giving as a city. And you've got all these folks coming in. We had this conversation when the machete item came up. So just have you guys think about that as this conversation unfolds. And then finally on repavement, I think for your edification and for Interim City Manager Black's edification, I think it was right at the start of Councilmember Bergenzer and the Vice Mayor and Palmares' term, former Director Tigbao came out, laid out a presentation after the tax measure had passed and said, if we go out to bond, this is what we could potentially do. It's public record. So we don't need to reinvent the wheel. That was part of the calculus in passing the tax measure, that we were going to get money up front to really deal with this issue head on and not continue the current approach. And that was what the voters ultimately supported. So would love to have that conversation as soon as we can, just to make sure that all the other public safety initiatives we're undertaking and now the focus on economic development, that's being complemented with additional action on the ground. So those are all my thoughts. Thanks again for all your work.
Thanks. Vice Mayor Tulik.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Director Joe, for your presentation. So kind of to piggyback on Councilmember Gordon's kind of in general, the question of equity. I would be very curious to see the PCIs in certain districts, specifically for those in economically disadvantaged areas. And I think we all understand that in Vallejo, it's primarily District 6 and District 2 that are the most economically disadvantaged. And if we take a quick PCI measurement of those districts, it would not surprise me that those would be the lowest PCI numbers. And just in Rancho, which is on the higher end of the economically disadvantaged. But if you talk about the Crest specifically, you can identify specific roads that probably haven't seen any light of day of any improvements or any upgrades in decades. And so this is where the question of, and this is always the question of CIP, of how do you identify which roads and which areas get fixed. So this is to once again piggyback on Councilmember Gordon's, I hope the question of equity comes into this conversation of identifying specifically the economically disadvantaged areas. And part of this is, and I want to thank Councilmember Regenza for bringing this up, is part of this conversation. I know we're talking about roads, but lighting is a critical issue which plays into public safety. And I want to point out the fact that for those that have actually driven through the Crest at night, there are areas that are literally pitch black. So if we want to talk about reducing crime, that would be one of the more poignant and impactful ways of if we just improve the lighting, specifically at the King's Market area. That alone would probably minimize or lessen some of the impacts there. But driving through some of the neighborhoods in the Crest specifically, they are literally pitch black. So I hope part of the CIP goes beyond just conversation of the roads itself, which is probably a top priority because that's what all of us council members get the most emails about. But lighting is something that I don't think gets talked about enough. And that's from a public safety standpoint. Because I think specifically, I mean, I know Sonoma is getting addressed with Caltrans and stuff like that, and their understanding they need to improve the lighting, and I think that plays into part of a lot of the vehicular accidents and pedestrian accidents is the lack of lighting in a lot of areas. So once again, I hope the lighting metrics are getting looked at to identify where these lighting areas, or areas specifically the high traffic pattern areas are need to get improved. And part of this also is, once again, we can't hit everything at once and stuff, but I think we, to a level of priority-wise, obviously to talk about how do we get funding sources. And I think, once again, this council's, their priority is economic development would, I mean, that's the solve of all problems, is if we can get economic development. So when we look at identifying, and thank you for Councilmember Matias bringing this up, is parking lots. If areas that are gonna bring in economic development, if we look at the parking lots, that's one of them where people coming from out of town, that they're gonna appreciate that more when those areas are fixed. But if we're able to identify those corridors, the economic corridors, Tennessee Street, Sonoma Boulevard, a lot of those high retail areas, I think that's where, if we look at a pecking order, when we put economic development as part of the equation of where to identify certain areas, that would be part of that equation too. But because some of the, especially at least in my district, in District 2, the only way roads are getting repaired in a lot of areas is when there's actually infrastructure, when some of the underground has to get fixed. But part of that is the whole road doesn't get fixed, it's just certain patches to where it creates more potholes in a lot of cases. So this is where I want to see where that infrastructure upgrades, if there's a schedule of when that's going to be, to where that may be some of the areas to identify of, since it's getting fixed anyway, of if we can look at potentially patching up the correct way as opposed to making it worse in between construction and the old asphalt that's been sitting there. So this is the type of strategic planning that I'm hoping that we're looking for to identify to be more efficient with where we're putting a lot of these quick fixes, because obviously we're not going to get our PCI up to not even 63 to any time in the next few decades. So, but to get it up to a manageable level, I don't even know if that's even a term that we can use in this case, if it's around 50. I mean, but the fact that that's the thing that we get the most comments on as council members is that's something that we need to look at, and obviously the bonding and looking at how we strategically figure out the funding. But once again, if we can identify as areas of economic development that can help us get there sooner rather than later, then I think that's where we need to put some of this this thought process. So thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. I'll be very brief, and then we will bring up water. But I think just really quickly on the Hidden Brook interchange, I want to thank you, Director Job, and the city manager. We've had a couple conversations about this, and with my hat on the board of STA, and I think we're starting to have some creative conversations about how we do the advocacy needed to deal with that issue of the other side of the interchange being in Napa County. So I just wanted to kind of appreciate you all taking this on, and because it's just been stagnating, and I know it's it's been very frustrating for the community up there that has paid into this fund, and it's just been sitting there. So I'm ready and willing to just help however I can with those hats on. And then with respect to the roads, I really like the framing of most improved, because we have to be very transparent and honest with our community about how far behind we are, but not do it almost kind of like our budget conversation, not do it in a way that's doom and gloom. Do it in a way that, no, we're getting, this is a gritty, city that works hard, and we are going to figure this out, and we're going to start the work and go and celebrate that incremental progress. And I think it's about what folks were saying, finding those high priority, high impact projects that really change the look and feel. And I think about Sonoma Boulevard and what that's going to do, having all 6 miles of Sonoma Boulevard get almost just a sort of a facelift in the next 6 to 10 months. And that's shot in the arm that's going to provide for the community, and how we can then together say, and this is what's next, and this is what's next. Because I think we get into these doom loops where folks see us fix one road and they go, well, why not this road? And we have to go, okay, we can't, if we have that conversation, we're never going to win. We have to go, okay, this is why we're choosing what we're choosing. This is what's next. This is what's next. We're not going to stop. We're going to, we're going to keep this work up. And I think what I'm most excited about is the team we have now with the financing creativity. Because when the last bond proposal came up, I was not a fan, in part because it was going to invest $12 million a year for 10 years, which, as we just learned, is only going to improve our PCI by about 3, and then have us paying debt service for 30 years. So I think we've got to have that holistic conversation. And I don't want to get into it now, but we've got to have that holistic conversation about, okay, these are all of our massive capital needs. Let's talk about the trade-offs. Let's talk really honestly about what we're going to do and what this is going to look like. And if we do it well, I think it'll come out with our community having a lot more trust and us really being able to move forward in a powerful way. And I just want to kind of say for the record that I think we do have the team in place to do that with our new city manager and our new staff members that have come on, and the folks that have been working on this for years and years and years in these departments. I think we're at a place now where we've got the team to be able to just start tackling this once and for all. So thank you for that. I'm really looking forward to seeing this, just take shape in the coming years, and not set unrealistic expectations for our community, but let's go. Let's get on this, because we've been investing significantly for the past several years, and we just have to kind of be very clear about what we're going to get, what's going to be the visible, measurable, improvements that the community is going to be able to see from those investments. So thank you. And I think we'll just, we may get some more comments from the community that lead to additional questions, but thank you again to the whole Public Works team. And we'll go ahead and bring up water and have you all share your plan.
Okay, Beth, you ready to roll?
Yes, I
You can
am.
go ahead and get
I
started.
am. Thank you. Thank you, City Manager Black. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members, and staff and members of the public. I'm Beth Schoenberger, your Water Director, and I am out of town, but I am pleased to be able to be with you virtually to join Public Works in presenting our capital improvement plan budgets for fiscal 27. I will note it's nearly 1 a.m. Where I am in my time zone, so I apologize in advance if I'm not at my best. But next slide, please. Slide 2, yeah. I wanted to just start by sharing a quick overview of the infrastructure components of your water system, because it's the context, of course, for the CIP. When you talk about public works, all of that infrastructure is right there out in front of you. And on the other hand, waters is usually behind fences or underground or in areas where you're not going to run across it every day. So just to set the table, you have 3 treatment plants. The Fleming Hill treatment plant that serves Vallejo, that's a 42 million gallon per day capacity. We also serve all of Travis Air Force Base with a 7 million gallon a day capacity plant. And then we have our small 1 million gallon plant that serves parts of unincorporated Solano County. It's called Green Valley, and as far as water goes, we refer to it as the Lakes Water System. Excuse me. You have 23 tanks and reservoirs in Vallejo. 3 are in the Lakes system. And I also want to draw your attention to the bottom right side of this slide, to the 19 pressure zones. There are many hills in Vallejo, as you all know, and that drives us a specific design of the water distribution system. And specifically, that means the creation of pressure zones, which is a pressure zone is a geographically distinct area in a distribution network where the water pressure is maintained within a very specific range, so that every household receives adequate water pressure, but doesn't go so high as to damage the plumbing fixtures. So our system is designed to have 19 different zones that accomplish that. And to facilitate the balancing those pressures, and to pump drinking water to customers at the highest elevations. For example, we have 25 pump stations in our system. 17 are in Vallejo and 3 are in the Lakes Water System. And then we also have 3 pump stations that function to bring our raw water from the Delta and Lake Berryessa into the Vallejo system to be treated. And to distribute all that drinking water, we require 600 miles of pipe, and they range in size from 2 inches in diameter to 42 inches. And we have 7 dams ranging in height from 20 feet to 150 feet. Some places there are dams where you wouldn't even realize there's a dam. When you come for a tour at Fleming Hill, you'll be next to a dam that holds 10 million gallons of water that is coming out of the treatment plant and stays there as it is then sent out in the distribution system. There's a dam at Lake Chabot. We have Lake Curry, Lake Fry, and Lake Madigan up in eastern Solano County. And then we have a dam at Summit Reservoir and also Swansea, which is currently offline. And that one is located just above the toll plaza. Next slide, please. An additional kind of context setting point we wanted to share is financing a water system, because water systems are financed differently than most other aspects of city government that you're talking about with the operating budget tonight. In 1996, the California voters passed Proposition 218, which requires that revenues from water rates can only be spent on water-related costs. Conversely, here in Vallejo, the water utility does not receive any funding from the general fund or from tax revenues of any kind. So that means costs of operations, capital improvements, infrastructure maintenance are all funded entirely mostly from ratepayers. And then when we are able to employ funding mechanisms such as the 2021 revenue bond issuance, sometimes we're able to get grants as well. But the vast majority of the money coming in to run the water system and maintain the water system is from ratepayers. Next slide, please. Excuse me. This slide just shows the types of water projects funded by the CIP. These are projects that enhance dam safety, support reliable treatment of the water, bring in water supply, distribute the water through water main projects that need to be maintained, the distribution system to be maintained, vertical facilities like pump stations, and the engineering that goes into the proactive design of projects before they are constructed. Next slide, please. So the strategy for this year's CIP is threefold. We're maximizing the value from prior appropriations. You may remember that last year we did not add any new projects, and we are not proposing to add any more this year either. We're focusing on finishing projects underway and work on building our capacity to deliver the existing projects. And as part of that, we're working on restoring the rhythm of our capital project delivery that got really disrupted during the pandemic. And then also when the bond issuance, which was great news, but it really caused an unintended ballooning of a list of that was really unmanageable for a list of projects. It was ultimately unmanageable for our small engineering team. So we're trying to right size all of that in the year ahead. And then also at the same time, set the stage for future planned projects and line them up and do the preparatory strategic long-term capital planning. So we're getting more and more out of the reactive mode that we've been in. Next slide, please. So just to share a little bit about how we prioritize our projects that end up in any given year CIP. And you can see on this chart that, and you can see them on the chart, excuse me. Vallejo's water system infrastructure has been neglected for decades, as you were discussing about potholes and the PCI. Underground is a very similar situation of neglect and a real challenge to decide where to begin. And choosing a capital project, a capital water project that's important is like, closing your eyes and throwing a ball at the side of a barn. You're going to hit that mark even with your eyes closed. And one of the biggest issues that we wrestle with is that for really any given piece of infrastructure and water that we talk about, we're looking at, well, what is the likelihood that it will fail? So if we're trying to decide, do we need to work on this thing or do we work on that thing? Well, what is the likelihood that this thing will fail? And then if it's likely, very likely, then, well, what is the severity of the impact? Okay, if a water pipe fails, they're old. Our water pipes are often very likely to fail. What's the severity of the impact? We have a great distribution team. It's understaffed, but they can get out there and repair the pipe. If something electrical fails and is likely to fail, the impact of that may be that we don't even have the parts because it's so old, that device is so old, we can't even repair it quickly. So we're wrestling with those kinds of difficult choices when we are working on the CIP. Because most, basically most parts of our system are high likelihood of failure and high severity of impact. So in the end, water systems like ours end up sort of being driven by the tyranny of the urgent. And we certainly find ourselves in that position. And then sometimes additionally, there'll be an unexpected regulatory requirement appearing that then drives infrastructure projects that has to be reprioritizing as well. So despite all that, we are embracing a management approach that's beginning this year that takes a longer, more strategic look out into the future so that we can begin to get ahead of the crisis. We know there will be crises, but we don't want to work solely from that place and begin to really shift into a proactive approach, which actually brings me to the next slide. This is a heat map showing the highest concentrations of main breaks. And over this, we overlaid the pavement condition index. And we don't see this part, but I wanted to let you know that we correlated it with a risk analysis for high-risk pipes. So water mains at high risk of failure. And all this is part of a strategy for strategic replacement planning versus reactive replacements due to emergencies. And very specifically to collaborate and correlate water main replacements with Public Works street strategy. I loved Brad's analogy about the peanut butter being spread too thin and no one gets a sandwich. So we really want to be spreading our peanut butter and jelly, the water jelly and the Public Works peanut butter in tandem. So we have obtained the list of streets that Public Works will be replacing, and we're planning to replace the pipes in the streets that they're going to be replacing before the street work begins. That seems very logical, but in the past year, that has not been the approach. So we're looking forward to that, and I'm excited that you're here now, Brad, and we can work together on that. Next slide. So Water's 5-year capital program for fiscal 27 includes 62 multi-year projects. So like last year, no new projects are being proposed, and we are going to be focusing on wrapping up the 20 CIP. Sorry, there are 62 multi-year projects in the water CIP. In fiscal 26-27, we are wrapping up the 20 already in progress. And again, that is because of the $52 million bond issuance in 2021 that got everybody so excited. We created a list that was much too long to tackle in a short term, but we're winnowing away at it. So to do those 20 projects, we are requesting additional funding of $6.7 million, and that's to fund 7 of those 20 projects that need some additional funding to achieve completion. That is the flocculation and sedimentation upgrade at the treatment plant, Skyview Tank, which I'll talk about in a minute, Summit Reservoir rehab, water main replacements of $4 million. Swansea Reservoir needs some work for $250,000. Travis Air Force Base plant for 1.5, and the SCADA system, which I'll also touch on, needs 1.5. So, and just finally, a note that the 2021 revenue bond is invested, and we draw it down as project expenditures are made. Next slide, please. The highlights of the fiscal 25-26 capital program are on this slide, and I'm just feeling in the interest of time, I will keep moving. They're pretty self-explanatory, and I can circle back to them if you would like. But I wanted to get into the content on the next slide. Skyview Tank, as Councilmember Bateas mentioned, its reconstruction is already in progress. It's a 24-month project. The tank has already been removed. It's a 6 million gallon tank. I'm very pleased to say that we have been proactive in terms of community engagement. We held a community meeting. There was food. We've also, before that, shared postcards and flyers about the project. And the reason I keep almost mentioning food is that one of the things that came out of that meeting is that the neighbors were so happy to be there and talking with each other, they started to plan a potluck. So that really pleased me to know that a water infrastructure project can also facilitate community building as well. So the geophysical work has been is underway, has been completed, and then there's a pipeline replacement that's part of that project, and that's also underway. And we will be continuing with public engagement around that going forward for the whole project, as well as watching out for issues about the roads. And I appreciate that note. Dams. We are going to be rehabilitating the slope, which is next to the Lake Curry Spillway. I'll have a picture of that in a minute. And the design of the outlet works needs to be done so that those can be replaced, which will have the very important result of changing the Department of Safety of Dams classification of the Curry Dam to a safer category. It's right now in a very high risk category. SCADA, which is basically the computer system that we use to have all parts of the water system talk to itself and talk to each other and be controlled by the operators and staff. It is very antiquated. It's a central tool. It's antiquated. It's a decade-long project. That's going to be a huge endeavor to overhaul the communications between the pump stations and treatment plants and chemical systems. And one of the things it will do is when like the operators are in the control room, sometimes the antiquated system just has alarms going off that are actually not really indicating that something serious is wrong, but it creates a lot of inefficiency for them to go and look and check and then turn it off. So that is actually going to make for more efficient operations as well. Flocculation and sedimentation is basically a key functional system that's part of the Fleming Hill treatment plant. And then our Travis Air Force Base plant needs multiple upgrades, and we're working with the base to help them do their job of paying for those projects and those upgrades. And we're making progress with them this year like we have never before in decades prior. So we're creating staff capacity here to implement those projects. Next slide, please. These are photos of Curry Spillway. It is 102 years old, and if you look closely, you can kind of see the slope on the left of the spillway is leaning. So that's what's going to be repaired in the upcoming year. Just wanted to give you just a photo or two so you can see what we're talking about. And then slide 13, next slide, please, the pie chart. This shows the relative areas of focus by functional area for this year's CIP. It's pretty self-explanatory. $2.4 million related to treatment, 3.3 related to distribution, about $1 million for operations, and $188K for supply functions. And with that, thank you for your time, taking the time to understand water CIP strategy and our proposed fiscal 27 CIP budget. I also wanted to note that Melissa Cansdale, who is operations manager in charge of engineering and water resources, is here in chambers tonight. Thank you, Melissa, for being there when I couldn't. So we're both here and ready to answer any questions you may have. Thanks.
All right. Thank you both. Why don't we, I see lights coming on, and I am inclined to go ahead and ask our questions of water, and then we'll take public comment and move to a vote. So let's try to do one round with water like we did with Public Works, and we'll start with Councilmember Letajou.
Thank you for your presentation. So with those, basically those four major projects, Skyview, Water Main, our SCADA, and our Travis treatment plant, and while yes, it'll take time to have all that work done, but how have we projected the future water rates, and what steps are being taken to minimize rate increases while we're maintaining system reliability and we're doing this infrastructure work? How have we projected out?
Yeah. You are asking a question that is on my mind daily. We have, I think I've mentioned in other presentations that we have come to the end of our prior 5-year rate plan. Usually water utilities do rate plans in a 5-year window because it's difficult with conditions changing outside of that window to make really reliable plans for what costs really are going to be needed in a rate plan. And that certainly came true in this last 5 years when the pandemic hit in the middle and changed a lot of things. So that said, we are beginning the process of putting together an RFP for consultants because it's such a complicated process to set rates. And one of the heaviest lift is to do exactly what you're asking about, which is to say what costs need to be covered. And we can know pretty well, like, what is our power cost going to be? Generally speaking, it's high right now, so we're going to have a pretty high number over the next 5 years. But to your point, the question of what is it going to cost for our capital investment is a choice. And because of that choice, because that is a choice, it's one of the reasons why water infrastructure gets neglected. So water managers often say, okay, I'll put that off for this year because I just want to make the ratepayers only have to pay for operations. And so it's really a balance, because at the end of the day, there needs to be a portion of the rates beyond what operational costs it covers, to then invest year to year in our CIP. So I personally have a commitment to keeping the rates as low as I can. I was a key member of the team that did the last rate case, and we didn't recommend the highest possible option that the committee actually of citizens and council ad hoc were recommending for that very reason. This is a disadvantaged community, and we want to keep our rates on the lower side in the county. At the same time, what I've shared with you tonight, there are significant costs. So I can't tell you tonight, exactly how we're going to do that. But one thing that I can say definitively, we are in a flat line as far as rate increases right now. We've come out of our five-year rate plan, and there are no planned increases until the evaluation and new recommendations for rates come back to council, and that will probably be in about 18 months or so.
Okay, and so with that in mind, you talked about the bonds that were issued, I think in 2021, and it was like $51
Yes.
million. And when I look
52,
at
yes.
when I look at your portfolio, I really wonder from a policy perspective, and someone who actually does infrastructure projects and have audited millions of dollars in San Francisco for its WISIP and sewer water treatment plants. And we've taken, $51 million in bond money, and how much of that money have we really spent? Because that's a huge deal when we're pulling down bond money and we're not moving projects. We're actually paying someone to have money sit in an account that we're not using. So how much money have we actually spent from that $51 million? And what is our plan to accelerate our spending, because we've already drawn down that money and it's sitting somewhere in an account and we're paying for that money?
Yeah, so finance handles the financial aspect of investing it and making sure we're not committing arbitrage, and the process by which we submit invoices specifically for bond-funded projects that the Water Enterprise Fund pays for at the front end, and then the bond revenue is then replenishes what the water fund pays. That's kind of the cycle, as I'm sure you know. So I'm not quite sure what you mean by money that we are paying for, but
as an example, if I just took one of your projects, I don't know where your projects are, so I'm just going to use it as an example. Our SCADA project, it's going to take, it's a 10-year timeline, right? And say you've pulled down bond money because you said, I have these 5 projects and SCADA is one of them. It's going to take me 10 years to complete my SCADA project. And generally, when you're taking bond money, you're pulling down just enough to handle a particular set of projects that you plan on getting done by a specific period, and then you go back and you draw down additional bond dollars when you get to your next phase, versus potentially pulling all the dollars down and it's actually sitting in your own bank account. So I'm just looking at how are we, and maybe it's our assistant city manager who is the finance director right now acting, could answer that question. Because I'm really interested how we're handling pulling down bond money, how that money is being spent timely and we're not paying for it, or we're not investing it on our side because we're still paying for it.
Yeah. I have a couple, before Nalungo may want to comment, or Florida, I have a couple of comments. One, by law, we are not allowed to invest it such that we make more than the interest we're paying. And they could comment more on that. So that's one of the reasons why that it's a finance department responsibility to manage that back end of it, as opposed to my job, which is how it's being spent. But one thing I do know is clear that, yes, the city has taken possession of the revenue, the $52 million revenue, but water is not in possession of anything above and beyond the dollars that we've already spent on the projects that are earmarked to be bond funded. So that's just one thing I wanted to mention. The second thing is that when we did our last rate case, we had a very specific plan for year one, when we projected to get a bond issuance done, that we plan to then take some of fund balance to build up PAYGO, so that when the bond money was used, we would have sufficient capital then to keep funding our capital improvement program. That kind of got out of whack when the pandemic hit. But we still are planning to do like a 15-year CIP look so that we can know what we are going to need to be spending and whether we're going to bond again, like you were mentioning earlier. Now, the third thing I do want to say is that, and I mentioned this earlier in my presentation about the ballooning of projects, that $52 million seemed just like such a huge amount of money at that time, which of course it is. But in the scale of what water projects cost, when my power bill is $250,000 a month, it only funded a certain amount of projects. So, and besides that, we have a very, very thin engineering staff, which is not to whine or complain, but just a simple fact that we can only push through so many projects when we only have right now one senior civil engineer. Or I guess now we have 2, but we're supposed to have 9. So that has slowed things down as well, which I know, and Nalungo can comment on this, I know that causes some complexity in terms of managing the revenue from the bond and managing the interest and all that kind of thing.
So would you like to answer my question? Thank you.
So, I mean, I think Beth kind of covered it, that it's not a revenue generation mechanism for the city. So we are sort of bound to, the money that we do make can't exceed the interest rate on the bond. So, I mean, the money, as she says, it sits there until it's drawn down. But as she mentioned,
I think fundamentally what I'm saying, and I think you know this, is how are we drawing down money and it's sitting there, and how is it phasing with the projects that we say we're going to do? Because it's and that's what I'm looking at. And where are we in our spending relative to projects getting done, despite the fact that you may not have a staff resource, but you have a staff, you can also contract work out as well. So there's many ways to get this done without it being the issue of, oh, I don't have a senior engineer.
yeah.
Right?
So I think I understand what you're asking. I think Beth mentioned this before too. There's several different challenges that are all converging at the same time, and I think it's the cost of projects has increased. The staff capacity is limited. And so unfortunately, I believe it was, this current year, they kept the CIP project list, I believe, the same. They didn't take on any new projects. And so their focus is really trying to complete the slate of projects that they currently have. So, I mean, I think, as she mentioned, moving forward, the idea is to only take on the projects that they believe that they can complete within a fiscal year and still continue to responsibly draw down those funds. I don't have the actual number in terms of the percentage of funds.
do.
Maybe Beth does.
I do.
Okay.
Sorry, I forgot to mention. We've spent about half of it.
Yeah.
So we spent about 25 million. A big chunk of that was spent on the advanced metering infrastructure project, which was prioritized because it is literally the cash register for the entire water enterprise fund, and the majority of the meters were far beyond their useful life, and so we needed to get real accuracy in terms of customer water use. So that has consumed the lion's share of the first half of the bond revenue, and then Skyview is going to consume another big chunk of it.
Okay. So thank you. And again, my biggest point is how are we matching that drawdown and making sure we're getting a project done? And when you talk about the cost of money, when you got it in 21, it was much different than what the cost of money is today and what it can do. And that's a big deal when we're talking about bonding and we don't have, and yeah, we did have the pandemic, so I can acknowledge that. But beyond that, it is how are we scheduling, phasing when we're, bonding and getting the work done, whether it's through the staff that we have in our own organizations or having the foresight to determine that part of this work has to be contracted out because we are bonding and we need to get this money spent and it needs to hold the value at the time that we have taken it, right? And so that's really important when I think about how we're using bond dollars and lining projects up with it. And so I'm just trying to get an understanding of really what is your plan as you continue to move forward and you're talking about bond dollars and it's matching up and it's not just old projects, but we still have to do the new projects as well. So thank you.
No, and I agree with you that those are the crucial matters. The procedure, the process by which we draw it down. I do want to make sure it's clear that that we're using the same the term drawdown. When I use it, I'm referring to our consultants because we do mostly use consultants. We don't have internal capacity, internal expertise in Vallejo Water right now. So every project requires consulting help. Our engineers are just managing the consultants. But back to the point of drawdown, the money is invested and the drawdown happens through a very specific procedure when we have spent money on a bond approved project and it comes back into the Water Enterprise Fund to cover that project. The quick answer on the pandemic was that our revenues just dropped precipitously because the governor allowed a moratorium on rates on bills. So our whole strategy for building up fund balance so that we came out of the abundance of the bond revenue, that we would have money on hand then to keep our capital program going at that same level. The bottom kind of fell out of that, and we're working now to build that back up.
Understood.
So I appreciate your questions.
Understood. Thank you for your work. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate your questions.
Councilmember Palmares.
Thank you for the presentation, Director Schoenberger. I just want to go back to that heat map, that overlay with the PCI. Are you implying that those main breaks, those are a causal factor to the PCI or the poor PCI?
No, sorry if I wasn't clear. What I meant was we really hate it when when Public Works has just paved a street and then there's a huge main break underneath it and we have the horror. I mean, it really just hurts us to have to dig into that beautiful new pavement because the PCI is already bad enough. So the causality is that when a pipe breaks, and especially when it's a really bad break, it lowers the PCI. So what we're trying to do is understand, based on the data that we have, and there is not a lot of data in in the distribution system. That's a whole other subject of getting the data on how likely the pipes are going to fail. But to the best of our knowledge, that is what is reflected in this heat map, which is the places that we're having frequent repeat main breaks. We want to get those pipes replaced so that when Public Works comes over and does street repair, the pipes underneath are going to hold and keep their new street material intact.
Okay. I just want to throw
Mhm.
an idea out there, just because Director Job and I were discussing about kind of the disproportionately high number of the collector roads that have low PCI, which, I mean, I guess they could just be really unloved, but there are a few roads I could think of where there have been known to be not like high pressure main breaks, but I remember you and I have emailed before about some of those like low pressure leaks that just like go below the radar. And I wonder if that has been playing a factor into the PCI. I think of Sonora Pass Road, north of 37. And, you know, just anecdotally talking to one of the residents there, she's seen the water just come out of there and the roads are horrible, but it's no way it's because of just, you know, big trucks running over it. I want to say it's because of some low pressure leaks going on. And I wonder if that's happening throughout the city.
That is an excellent point, and you're correct. Those slow leaks, this is sort of a paradox because those slow leaks do damage the pavement. And the paradox is with our distribution crews being so understaffed right now, we literally have a triage board like you have in an ER. Day to day, they plan to deal with the ones that are low priority, like the slow leaks. But then if there's a main break, all hands on deck for the main break. And so I don't know for sure. Melissa might be able to comment on that. I don't know whether in that heat map we had particularly included the small leaks. I can't remember in our discussion of that, Melissa. But it's a really good point, and we need to make sure that we are factoring those in because, there is a causality there, Councilmember.
And you can definitely see the saturated subgrade. There's a certain type of failure you see in the asphalt. So it's very clear whenever you've got a saturated subgrade, it cracks into a very unique pattern. It's pretty easy to see.
Okay, so this is interesting, if I may jump in. I think it's a great question. So again, just like, unlike here in Vallejo, like in other cities, you have a water utility, you have a stormwater management utility, and a wastewater utility. I know in Cincinnati and in Stockton, we set it up so that we were reimbursed by the utilities for any impacts like that. So I think that's where you're headed.
It's one of the things I am headed
Yeah,
to.
yeah. I think it's something that we need to look at because if this water situation is impacting the roads, then I think we're going to need to look at that in terms of some kind of potential reimbursement back to the general fund.
Absolutely. And so, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, I just wanted to answer that one point, but go ahead, Councilmember. I can come back to that. Go ahead.
Sure. One idea I had proffered a while ago, and I just kind of fell between the cracks, was in the city of Davis, they have a road cutting fee, and it's different from our trench cutting fee. And it's exactly what you're talking about. So PG&E, theoretically, they would pay more for cutting the road, and we would, stand to gain a lot more money back from that. But something along those lines, just, for your situation, where it's just, maybe look into the road cutting fee. I'll email you separately, but anything where we could like recoup and get reimbursed for those that road cutting would be great.
And Councilmember Palmyers, we are working on that. So we have asked our consultant to start looking at the rate, at the fee study for that.
Okay, fantastic.
And to that point, the water fund actually pays the public works part of the general fund. I think it's roughly $600,000 a year for their streets work directly related to water's work. So
what
what
I'm suggesting, Beth, is that may be insufficient the deeper we look into this.
Yes. it's something we're actually actively talking about with Oscar right now. So absolutely.
Great. I appreciate this conversation. Thank you so much.
Vice Mayor, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. And I think these underlying conversations we're talking about potential, which brings me more to the question of the deferred maintenance. So whenever I hear the word deferred maintenance, that tells me that it's just going to cost us more later to fix these. So this is my question, and I trust, Beth, that you're identifying kind of like the high priority areas of which deferred maintenance needs to happen at certain times, and I think that's kind of, you've kind of projected that throughout your schedule and stuff like that. So I just want to bring to light the fact that if deferred maintenance is happening, that we're not putting off like the big ticket items to where we're going to pay exponentially more 3 years down the line versus being able to address it now when we talk
Yes.
about drawing down the funds and things of that nature. If we've got 25 million sitting in there and then we're doing the cost analysis of spending the ability to fix it now versus the deferred maintenance of it being twice as much 3 years down the line, I'm anticipating we're doing that cost analysis of these type of CIP projects.
Yes, and in fact, we have set aside $2 million a year for paving, which we actually end up using Gelati and Sunrise and other companies to do the work behind water projects, which is sort of just another piece of a point of information related to this whole subject of the water streets dynamic.
Thank you for that clarification and confirmation. And the other thing is more just of a comment of so we've received emails of some of the water breaks that have been happening recently, and understanding how short-staffed your team is. I want to commend your team for being able to promptly fix a lot of these water breaks that have been happening. And this brings more to the attention of how do we get the support of filling these important vacant positions that we need to get filled to where it'll be more a cost savings versus for the fact that she was only able to address certain water breaks because they're already limited to the overtime hours that are able to put in, just for the fact that they don't have enough staffing. So it's that type of stuff that I would want to make sure that we're able to kind of look to of how to address that to help support, since this is an enterprise fund, that this is actually extra funding that we're actually, that is self-sustaining over itself. So this is where I think if we're more proactively addressing some of these internal personnel needs, that we're helping ourself with the increasing our enterprise fund. So I just want to bring that to light.
If I may add to that, and I'm not sure if the utility is utilizing this or not, but stated so if the utility is, standard practice for utilities is to invest in program management / construction management support services. So I don't know to what extent this utility is doing that.
We are.
To what extent are they? What actual role are they fulfilling? Are they fulfilling an end-to-end program management support role, or do you have them doing specific, discrete things within the program management spectrum?
I would actually invite Melissa to give all the details on that, but I would say at a high level, we have an engineer assigned to each project, and they manage it start to finish. But I invite Melissa to add some more flavor and texture to those details.
My very blunt answer is both. We do have project management services and construction management services, and depending on the project and the need of the project, they either serve the role of, cradle to the grave, so to speak, or they serve specific limited roles on that project. But there is oversight of an engineer on staff.
I understand. So I guess my further probe into the question is, if you have vacancies, why are you not using these vehicles to cover those vacancies?
We are, to the extent that we can.
And I think that goes to the cost analysis of if we spend the money up front to try to fill these vacancies versus having the consultant come in and do it. I think that's where, I think if we look at the cost analysis from that standpoint, that's a exercise that's potentially worth doing. But knowing that how short, one engineer versus the 9 that you need, that in itself tells me that we're significantly understaffed for an important department that could utilize that support.
I just want to provide some clarification on the staffing and maybe some hope. Okay, so we have three senior civil engineer FTEs, and we have recently been able to fill a second one. So I'm very happy that we have a second senior civil on board. We just need one more, and we also have 4 assistant engineers, and so we are building our staff up. But a year ago, we did not have this. So this is very recent. I'm very excited. I have a lot of hope. So there should be, at least my goal as somebody who oversees these divisions, is to deliver more projects and to get more motion moving. So a year ago, it was kind of a dire situation, and then now it's a different story, and I'm really excited. So there is hope, I will say. So I
appreciate that update and that positive outlook at moving forward.
Councilmember Gordon and then Councilmember Bergenser.
Thank you so very much. I appreciate this presentation, as always. I do want to say that I noticed that there has been slow leaks going on to Porter / Cherry. It's the most weirdest street ever. Start off Sandy Beach, Porter, and then Cherry. And there is a slow leak that's coming down the street onto Porter. But I also noticed it the same on Benicia Road. So some of that is unincorporated, and it goes into District 6, and it's coming down, and it's coming like from look like a crack, and then someone paved over it, like put some cement over it, but now it's breaking up again. And I also have pictures, one that's happening on Russell and Georgia Street. They sent it to me, and I will forward it to you. But it's coming down the street in front of Stephen Manor, and then it's creating, I can show you later, but yeah. And so this was one of my ambassador who brought this to my attention, and it's Russell, and now it's coming on Russell and Georgia Street, and instead of them fixing it according to them, they just put some type of tarp or something on top of it, like some type of cover over it. And so it stands out as black tar on top and the street, and now the water is coming up again, and now it's turned into a puddle. So I'll be happy to forward this to you. But I think that was going back to what my colleague was saying here, is how can, before he does that work, are you, sir, able to identify some issues of evidence that this may be a leak, even though it may dry? Because it didn't look like it was that at first, and now it's starting to happen again.
One of the things that we...
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Brad.
So saturated subgrade underneath a road just creates this kind of bullseye type failure. So pretty noticeable from that. And so, 58 days in, but it is absolutely my intention that we try to choreograph the main replacements to come before the asphalt placement, because, that's just the only way we're ever going to get ahead of both problems.
Exactly. One of the things we do too is that as we are having to triage, which is not ideal, of course, but as slow leaks are increasing, distribution does come in and do what they can do with a temporary patch. Everybody knows it's very temporary, but that may be, I don't know, I haven't been informed exactly about the item you're talking about, Councilmember Gordon, but we'll certainly look into it.
Also, what I hear you saying, even though you might cover it, it doesn't mean it's permanent. It's maybe for safety reasons?
Correct. Okay. And that we don't have the staff to do the full, trenching and dig out and repair or replacement at that time. But we're trying to make it as safe as we can. And then, of course, we do need to be working with Brad's team because that part is their job. But we need to get the pipe underneath fixed first.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. And I'll make sure I forward these pictures to you.
Perfect. Thank you.
Councilmember Bergenser.
Thank you for your presentation. And I know both departments are holding 1,000 plates spinning in the air at one time, but I feel like we're one entity and we have you present on the same night, and yet there's no overlay of your two plans. And it makes the most sense that if you know that the roads that are going to be fixed in the next year, why isn't your CIP plan matching to replace the pipes that are going under? I mean, we're not replacing every street, but we're doing a mile or so of Tennessee Street that's going to be ground and repaved. Why aren't the water pipes being replaced underneath there before the paving starts? So I'm not an engineer, but I don't understand why we can't overlay the two plans, and you both should be working in tandem to make sure that it's cheaper for all of the ratepayers and all of the citizens or the taxpayers that we only do these projects once instead of having to go back and do it again.
You're 1,000% right.
So next year.
And what I've been told by people, well, first of all, that's exactly what we're planning to start to do again. And what I've been told by people who were here long before me, that was the approach in the past. So we're trying to get back to that best practice. Partly why the two CIPs were presented separately this year is because they're completely funded. They're funded completely separately. But to your point, that's partly why I put this heat map graphic in to just show you that we've begun to move in that direction and plan to make great strides this year.
Right.
For sure.
And I get that, but by next year, I would hope that you have that under control because you are the same entity. It's not like we're working with an outside vendor or somebody else. It's your two departments within the city. There's no reason why your two plans shouldn't overlay and match so that we can get the biggest bang for the buck. Thank you.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you very much. I will just echo that comment, and Beth and Melissa know that my delight at seeing that heat map, because we have had conversations about the dig once policy and the need and limited capacity, and your valiant efforts on the ground in water and public works to try and push that work forward despite the staffing constraints. So I just want to thank you for that. And I saw, as Councilmember Bergenser was talking, I was looking this way and I saw the city manager nodding. And I just will repeat what I said in the last presentation, that I think we just have, we're ready to do this work, and I'm really excited to move it forward. It's not going to be easy, but I think we're ready to start finding some of those efficiencies and moving the needle. So with that, at last, I would like to open the public hearing. And if there is anyone online that's been waiting to speak, thank you for your patience, because I think when I devised this format, I didn't realize we would have so much robust discussion. So do we have anyone in person?
No one in person, Mayor.
I just wanted to offer folks the opportunity to comment, to hear both Public Works and Water before commenting, but I kept them waiting an hour. Is there anyone online?
Through the mayor, yes, we do have one speaker online
Let's
with their hand
call
raised.
them.
And C, please unmute yourself. You have the floor. And C, don't hear you. Might need to. Oh, there we go.
Here we go. Okay. I'll try to make all my comments within 3 minutes, but it's a lot of material you guys covered. I do want to say, starting off, I really appreciate the clarity and the candor from both Public Works and from the Water Department. I think you guys have complex situations, and I appreciate that you just how accessible you made the information. So I'm going to jump around on a couple of things. I'm going to go first to Public Works, and I want to echo something that Councilmember Matias had mentioned, I don't know, within the last couple months, and that was about the possibility of changing the strategy for pavement repair from maybe just a standard PCI approach to one that looks at more at the arterial roads and basically at the impact. So instead of maybe fixing a pothole on a street that doesn't get much traffic, let's make sure that the roads that people have to drive every day and that then get frustrated by every day, let's make sure those roads get the attention first. And it's not to say that improving our PCI score isn't important. It's just that we have to make trade-offs. And I think that I'd like to see the trade-off for impact, where if the greatest number of people are encountering problems, let's deal with that. So it sounds like some of our biggest arteries have been handled, at least in part, but then there are what I would consider secondary arteries. And in particular, I'm thinking of the Florida Street Hill between Sonoma Boulevard and Amador. You almost need a 4-wheel drive on that road, and there are other similar streets like that. And my time is running out, so I'll move along here. Next comment. The ferry system now has almost returned to its pre-pandemic volume, where we are getting roughly 1 million people a year through the ferry. So let's have a priority focus on the areas around the ferry to make sure they're safe and attractive and clean. You only get one chance to make a good first impression, so let's not squander the number of visitors who are coming through. And that also applies to things, again, echoing Councilmember Matias, I believe it was, maybe it was Brigenzer too, of the downtown parking lots. How much would it cost to weed the parking lot at the Empress, for example? You have the Empress putting on 2 to 3 events a week, and that parking lot has cars and weeds. And maybe can the council give me a few more minutes here, because we have 2 big
Yeah, I
things.
was trying to signal to Manny. Go ahead and take it if you need another minute. Next time I'll
Okay.
split up public comment for Public Works and Water, I think, and do 2 rounds.
Appreciate it. Thank you. So 2 other kind of random things with respect to public works and public buildings. I'm curious what happened to the dispatch that the city was going to get, or the portable building that the city was going to get for police dispatch, because that was supposed to have been the worst part of the police building. And at one point we had the PO, I thought, ready to go forward on that, and then it's just been dropped. I haven't heard anything more about it. Skipping over to water for a minute, the house that the water department purchased next to the Fleming plant was never very well explained or justified, and it's really been a heartburn for a lot of Vallejo residents. Is why did we buy that thing? Are we using it? And if we're not using it, we should sell it. And then finally, I will wrap up by saying, in addition to the city parking lots that are so shabby, I would love to see code enforcement putting some emphasis on commercial parking lots. And in particular, I'm thinking about the parking lot at the Vallejo Plaza. It used to be called the Lorwin Plaza. I don't know that it's ever been cleaned or picked up. It's in terrible shape. CVS, basically we need something some better penalties and enforcement of commercial property maintenance and management. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, any other commenters? All right.
The speakers at this time, Mayor.
All right, let's go ahead and close the public hearing, and we will look for a motion to approve the CIP.
I move that we adopt resolutions accepting the 5-year capital improvements program for fiscal years 2026 to 2027 through 2030 to 31 for the Public Works and Water Departments.
All right.
I
and
second it.
I believe we are okay doing our vote because we have lost Councilmember Matias, as it is a late hour and he is occupied. So we're glad he was able to stay as long as he did. Why don't we, Councilmember Letters, do you have a amendment or question?
So I just want to know, to the point that Councilmember Matias brought up, and he's brought it up several times, and that is our downtown parking lot and how we can get that into the CIP this year.
So we are building up resources in our parking fund. So we have about $2 million in that fund. I do not think that would actually resurface one, especially given that we have LID, low impact development requirements that would complicate that. So we are in negotiations with Vallejo Flood and Wastewater District that are contemplating some improvements in the park there. And so one thing we're asking is if they could incorporate parking lot upgrades that were also compatible with low impact development that they'll be doing in the park. So obviously that's not a decision yet, but we are having discussions.
Well, I'm going to say this to the city manager, and Councilmember Matias had to drop off, and I'm pressing this issue. We need to figure out, we're paying for a parking lot. We just had a huge discussion about a parking lot for machetes, and we approved that. And we have downtown parking across the street from the Empress Building and other places, and we need to do something about our parking lot, our lots, and not just ignore it and figure out what can we do to put it in. It is our downtown area, and so he is not here, and this is very important, and he has raised it several times. And again, we are agreeing to take care of Machete's parking lot, and we need to do something about our parking lots downtown. So I am asking that to the city manager, we figure out how we can handle that.
I do want to correct the record. So we are not paving Machete's parking lot. We're paving the public right-of-way on 6th Street.
Yes, I get that. I know. It's the public right-of-way. It's still, Machete gets to use it. It's a business that's using it, and I don't have an issue with it. It's fine. But I'm making a point that he has made, and he's off. And what I want to do is I want to daylight it, and I'm saying it to the city manager. We need to figure out how we can think about our downtown area and getting some of the parking lots done. There's businesses there as well.
Go ahead, city manager.
And we will be delighted to do a deep dive into coming up with some kind of a creative, innovative solution for that.
Thank you. That's all I want to hear.
All right, Councilmember Gordon, did you have a clarifying? We have a motion on the table that we need to vote on, so clarifying question
No.
on that? Okay.
Thank you. I was just going to make the point that it was 35 years of work and it wasn't a parking lot it was a street.
All right, let's go ahead and, okay, we're going to go ahead and vote.
Nonetheless,
Yeah, we're going to go ahead and vote.
I bring it forward on his behalf.
All right, let's go ahead and vote. And we have direction that will bring back those issues, because I think there's alignment. We've had discussions on that. All right, how is our voting going?
So the motion carried unanimously with Councilmember Matias absent.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you both. Thanks to all of our Public Works and Water staff for your work on that. We have one more action item, and that is item D. I'll ask our city clerk to announce this item, and hopefully we can get it through it expeditiously.
Yes, adopt a resolution adopting a technology disruption policy at notice city council public meetings is required by Senate Bill 707. So really quickly, Mayor, members of the council, before you this evening is a resolution to adopt this disruption policy as required by SB 707. SB 707 amended the Brown Act to require eligible legislative bodies on or before July 1st of this year to adopt a policy addressing how the city will respond if a disruption, telephonic or internet service prevents members of the public from observing or participating in a notice city council meeting remotely. This requirement applies only to notice city council meetings, and the law also requires that this item be considered in open session and not on the consent calendar, which is why it's on action tonight. So the proposed policy before you establishes procedures for announcing a disruption, recess the meeting while staff works to restore service, documenting those restoration efforts, and reconvening the meeting once service is restored. or if necessary, continuing the meeting after making the required Brown Act finding that good faith efforts were made and that the public interest in continuing the meeting outweighs the public interest in remote public access. So adoption of this policy will ensure the city's compliance with state law and support continuity of public participation during technology disruption. There is no fiscal impact associated with this item. Staff is recommending that you adopt the resolution with the policy that's attached to the staff report. There was a question during the break I'd like to address, and the question was, does law require for you to at least recess the meeting in the event of a technology issue for at least 1 hour? And the answer, unfortunately, is yes. However, the meeting shall remain in recess for at least 1 hour or until service is restored. So whichever is the sooner. So you would hope that it would be sooner than 1 hour.
Thank you. And that, for the record, that was my question, not because I don't want to give us a chance to get technology back, but we have actually had this exact scenario and spent about 45 minutes and it worked out. But I was concerned that, for example, right now at 11 p.m., if we were to have an internet or technology outage late at night near the end of a meeting, that we would have to sit here for 1 hour unless we were able to restore it, and we would just be sitting here. But apparently that is required by state law, so there's no way around it, and I raised it for the record. Thank you, Dawn. Why don't we go ahead and see if we have any public comment on this item, and then I'll move to questions, comments from council, and we'll get a motion.
Through the mayor, we do not have any members of the public sign up to speak on this item at this time.
All right, we will close public comment. I'm not seeing any lights from council, so we might be ready for a motion. Oh, no, go ahead, Councilmember Burgenser.
So just to be clear, the 1 hour is written into the law that we can't change that.
Yeah, that is, you and I.
It is written into the statute.
Well, bah humbug.
We are on the same page, and it's great. We
I
did
object.
that. We did that voluntarily. We gave ourselves 45 minutes. It came back, but if the outage happens at midnight, we are stuck until 1 a.m. unless internet's restored. So that was unfortunate, but you know what?
I'm expressing my disdain in that decision, but
You are echoing my disdain, so we are shared in our disdain. Are we ready for a motion?
Yes, I move we adopt a resolution adopting a technology disruption policy as noticed at noticed City Council public meetings as required by Senate Bill 707.
All right, we are ready to vote.
Motion carries unanimously with Councilmember Matias absent.
All right, thank you. That is going to bring us to our consent calendar items that were pulled, and I'm hoping we can move through these quickly. We're going to go through item 8.1, adopt a resolution approving a consultant and professional services agreement with Nino and More for environmental assessment and reuse planning activities focusing on brownfield sites within the city of Vallejo, an amount not to exceed $412,250. And I will turn it over to Councilmember Gordon, who pulled the item.
Thank you so very much. I appreciate this. I just wanted to get clarity, as you heard was mentioned earlier. So just want to explain this to the public and what it meant. And also we want to make sure that it's not just one part of Vallejo, once again, all of Vallejo. So just getting that clarification. Thank you.
Yes, good evening, Mayor and council members. Gillian Hain, Assistant City Manager. Yes, this item is an Environmental Protection Agency grant for just under $500,000 for the city. This is our second year in a row receiving this grant, and these funds are allocated to any property within the city limits that needs a phase 1 or phase 2 testing done. We reserve those. Usually we try and do city-owned sites first, depending on if they need to be developed or cleaned up or put out for potential sale. We do not use these funds on any properties that would be the responsibility of the Navy for cleanup or of Mare Island Company or any other developer. These are usually chosen sites that it's in the city's best interest to use these grant funds for. Sometimes we'll partner with a developer or an affordable housing developer or something like that where there's a benefit, but these are not funds that we would use overlapping other areas of responsibility.
Thank you so much. That's all I want to know. Thank you for that clarity.
You're welcome. All right, with that, I think we're ready for a motion. Or, well, let's make sure there's nobody raised with their hand raised online. We did take public comment on the consent calendar, but just to be safe. Do we have anyone online?
Through the mayor, we do not have anyone that has raised their hand online.
All right, then we're ready for a motion.
I move we adopt a resolution approving a consultant and professional services agreement with Nino and Moore for environmental assessment and reuse planning activities focusing on brownfields sites within the city of Vallejo in an amount not to exceed $412,250 and authorize the city manager to execute the same.
All right, we are ready to vote.
Motion carries unanimously with Councilmember Matias absent.
All right, thank you. That's going to bring us to item 8.2, formerly item 8J, adoption of a resolution approving the HUD required annual action plan for this upcoming fiscal year and funding allocations for community development block grant program and home investment partnership program at HUD projects and activities. I'll turn it over to Councilmember Gordon, who pulled the item.
Thank you so much, Mayor. I just want to address it because the caller did point this out. So could you go ahead and explain this, please?
Yes, so this is the annual action plan, which outlines the activities and programs and projects that the city will be working towards funding through the Community Development Block Grant and the Home Investment Partnership Block Grant. This is a requirement of HUD. We have to approve this plan and the public participation and process for implementation of these funds. If we don't, then we're out of compliance with HUD regulations, so that's why it's before you, and it's something that we do every year, and we've just brought it before you so that we can move these projects and programs forward.
Thank you. Could you explain, the caller mentioned about the SLU house, does any of this funding can benefit what the caller had pointed out?
So some of the uses within these funding buckets would be supportive services or affordable housing construction, as outlined in the staff report. So potentially, yes.
Thank you. And that's all my question.
All right, go ahead, Councilmember Burgenser.
Along the same lines, the caller also mentioned that the public comments period is open until June 30th, but we're approving it tonight. So can the public still comment after we've already approved it, or
Yes,
what happens to those
we
comments?
can take public comment year-round, actually. But yes, the period is open, and it won't affect that period.
Okay.
All right, let's just double check and make sure we don't have anyone with their hand raised for public comment.
Through the mayor, no speakers on this item at this time.
All right, then we're ready for a motion.
I move we adopt a resolution approving the HUD required annual action plan for fiscal year 2026 to 2027 and funding allocations for community development block grant program and home investment partnership program projects and activities.
All right, we are voting.
I'm missing one vote. There we go. Motion carries unanimously with Councilmember Matias absent.
Thank you. That's going to bring us to item 8.3, formerly item 8K, resolution approving a legal services agreement with SL Environmental Law Group for participation in a settlement with 3M, DuPont, and other entities concerning aqueous film-forming foam products, liability litigation in the district court for the District of South Carolina, master docket. I'm not going to read the whole number. And I'll turn it over to Councilmember Gordon, who pulled the item.
Yes, sir. Can you please explain this? This was not a call in, but I did receive a email asking to pull this.
Sure. This is a class action lawsuit related to what's called PFAS or microplastics in municipal water systems and wastewater systems. This law firm, SL Environmental Law Group, is one of the law firms that represents cities to go after funding that's available through a settlement fund. And this happens to be against two of the largest manufacturers who made the plastics that got into the water system, 3M and DuPont. And we initially did not think that we would qualify to participate. However, the attorneys showed us some sampling that they had, sampling information that they had that shows that there is indeed levels of PFAS in our source water in the Delta. And the firm's estimating that we could receive a payment of $2 million or more from the settlement fund because of that. So there's no cost to us to enter into an agreement with them to do that. They get paid a percentage of whatever they collect for us. So to us, it made a lot of sense just to let them go forward. There's nothing for us to lose here.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. That's all I have.
All right, let's double check and see if we have anyone wanting to comment on this item.
Through the mayor, no speakers on this item at this
All
time.
right, thank you. Then we're ready for a motion.
I move we adopt a resolution approving a legal services agreement with SL Environmental Law Group for participation in a settlement with 3M, DuPont, and other entities concerning aqueous film forming foam, AFFF, products liability litigation in the district court for the District of South Carolina, master docket number 2, 18-MN-2873-RMG.
All right, and we are ready to vote.
Motion carries unanimously with Councilmember Matias absent.
All right, thank you. That is going to close out all of our consent items and move us to item 10. We don't have any information items this meeting, so item 11 is our city manager's report.
Nothing at this time, Mayor.
All right, thank you. That's going to bring us to our city attorney's report, item 12.
Nothing to report at this time,
All
Mayor.
right, thank you. That's going to bring us to item 13, which is our second community forum. Anyone who did not address the council on our first community forum, but wishes to address us on items not on tonight's agenda, this is your chance. I don't believe we have anyone left in person because we got through everyone earlier.
No one
So-
signed up in person, Mayor.
Let's see if we have folks online, and let's go ahead and call them.
Through the mayor, yes, we do have one speaker online with their hand raised. Cristal Gallegos, please unmute yourself. You have the floor.
Thank you. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Great. I wasn't able to get through earlier. So good evening. I'll keep it short because it's late, but community does deserve the last word tonight, I believe. So the meeting tonight is ending on the very same day that our city released the long-awaited badge bending report. And I'd be remiss to not bring that up tonight. And it's not just because our city chose transparency, but it's really, we have to name it's because the judge forced it. And the report is blunt. If you've had a chance to read it, I mean, it's 170 pages, but I think it's incumbent on all of us to read it. Badge bending happened, number one. It violated policy, it damaged public trust, and command staff knew and didn't act. And we know now that that's not a rumor, it's not activists misinterpreting anything. It's the city's own investigator confirming this misconduct and leadership failure. And so this has been confirmed today. And we know that our community has lived with this fallout for years. I mean, the killing of Sean Monterosa, the lawsuits, the missing records, the retaliation against officers who try to speak up, and now the Flock data breach that showed exactly how loosely the city handles sensitive information. You would think we are part of some reality show, but we, reality is stranger than fiction in this case. And tonight we heard it again, loud and clear from, felt like every corner of this room as I listened in. The community does not want Flock. Vallejoans, not outsiders, like I've heard in our community, it's Vallejoans. People are tired of being treated like suspects while our department is avoiding the accountability. And this opposition we're hearing to Flock tonight, it's not going away. It's actually growing because people here know the pattern. We see that Vallejo isn't fixing harm, that it's in fact hiding it until someone forces their hand, which is pretty embarrassing. And that's why it's unacceptable to keep throwing money at surveillance like Flock while starving oversight like POAC. Flock's not safety. POAC is. And this badge bending report makes something undeniable. Our department does not need more surveillance pointed at the community. It needs more accountability to the community. And accountability takes resources, real ones, independent counsel, investigators who don't answer to the department, and a POAC that isn't symbolic but fully equipped, because we know it was created because the internal systems failed. So the release of today's report shows that these failures were real, they were repeated, and most importantly, they were harmful. So as we close this meeting tonight, I'm speaking for the people who have been carrying the cost of this for years. Please stop expanding surveillance without the safeguards. Fully fund POAC, not later, not halfway, but now, please. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone else sign up for community forum?
Through the mayor, yes, we do have one other speaker who raised their hand.
Let's go ahead and call them.
The people, please unmute yourself. You have the floor.
Yes, wanted to thank Crystal Gallegos for that very
direct feedback about today's release of the badge bending report. The people have known that there have been major abuses by the Vallejo Police Department for many years, for decades even. The fact that it has taken this long for that report to be released, it truly speaks to the hope that people have forgotten, but the people have not forgotten. The people live with the fear of the violent police officers in our town decade over decade. The mass surveillance that is being deployed on the Vallejo community is egregious, and the fact that the city is facing a tremendous budget shortfall, and we are spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on these surveillance contracts every month says a lot. While the budget is trying to be balanced on the backs of the employees, roles that have been unfilled because people in the city have not done their job to fill those, roles, and now they're being put up for elimination. Budgets are being cut in other vital service areas. And we are spending an obscene amount of money on mass surveillance. We all know there's so many reports and so many viral videos, research about flock and mass surveillance that doesn't create any safety for our community. It further deepens the distrust from the community to y'all. It's your job to scrutinize the things in this town that are not working right. And if you have such a tremendous shortage of your budget, you need to start cutting things that we don't need. In the Surveillance Oversight Commission meeting, there was information that you all should check on that talked about how many hits the flock cameras give and how very, very little response the VPD can actually respond to them. So we're paying for services that don't even get used and are only used at the discretion of the officers. So I encourage the city council to, if you have not read the reports and the meeting minutes from the surveillance oversight committee, that you do that and familiarize yourself with what flock is and what it isn't. It is not public safety. It is mass surveillance being paid for by the taxpayers, and we don't want it. Be like the cities, be like our neighbors, getting rid of this mass surveillance product, spending all of our money.
Thank you. Anyone else on community forum?
No other speakers at this time.
All right, so that is going to bring us, or we'll close community forum. That's going to bring us to item 14, requests and actions for future agenda items or special projects. I'm going to ask respectfully to my colleagues that we move past this and to item 15, report of the presiding officer and members of the city council. I see the vice mayor. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. And it's just to quickly go through this, I want to thank VCUSD for inviting us to attend the graduations that occurred last week. I was able to attend the Vallejo High School graduation on Thursday the 11th, and then the Jesse Bethel graduation on Friday the 12th. And I want to thank, as the vice mayor, I was invited to attend the 128th anniversary proclamation of the Philippine independence at the Philippine Embassy. So I want to thank Consul General Arnel Talisayan, along with Deputy Consul General Maria Paz Cortez, along with Vice Consul Hannah Go, for the kind invitation, the great event, or a great evening. And then on Monday the 15th, we had our Planning Commission meeting, and so we were able to pass a few, the public hearing that happened, but also the working plan that they're currently working on, moving that forward. And then on Friday the 19th, I want to thank Louis Michael for bringing back the late night basketball, and his whole team for getting that restarted. So that was the first of the 8-week program that's starting for the late night basketball. And then on Saturday the 20th, want to thank Angela Jones for the Juneteenth celebration that happened at the waterfront, along with Jamila Hanif doing a great job emceeing that whole program. And then on Sunday, I had the honor to be invited to attend the 100-man march And so I want to thank Rob Reason, along with Rayvon Williamson, for helping to organize that. But specifically want to thank Chief Toss, Sergeant Hollis, and City Manager Black for basically allowing and to help facilitate that event to move forward under unique circumstances. So want to thank that for happening. And then I had the honor and I want to thank, so I was able to visit the Costco Fairview job site again today. So for those that haven't driven by that, that's made some significant progress. And so I want to thank Danny Liu, the Lewis Group construction project manager, along with Barbara Granados. She's the Costco construction manager who I had the opportunity to meet. And so especially by the end of July, you're significantly going to see a lot more construction and some vertical progress on that whole job site. And then tomorrow, for those that aren't aware, there's actually a ribbon cutting ceremony for Jersey Mike's that's happening over in the, I guess, the In-N-Out Plaza where Jersey Mike's is opening up. So that's going to be tomorrow at 10:30. And I know I typically do a shout out for a local business, but in this case, I want to give a special shout out for Carabao over in Napa that had celebrated their 1-year anniversary. So I want to highlight the celebrity chef from French Laundry, Chef Jade, that invited me to attend their 1-year anniversary and give a shout out to Arian Dell, who actually did a live performance during their 1-year celebration. And that would be the end of my presentation.
Thanks. Councilmember Gordon.
Thank you so much. I want to say, first of all, thank you to Louis Michael and also everyone who is part of the late night basketball that I had the honors to reunite. It was a success. Thank you to the city manager for coming out. It was great to see you. Thank you to my colleague, J.R. Matulik, for coming out. It was amazing. I showed up at 5:30, and we had kids already ready, and it was amazing. And I want to thank Bambinos for helping supplying the meals that night. I was just overwhelmed. And also for the families who came out for the young man who did the logo. Unfortunately, he passed. We were going to announce the winner the day after Mother's Day, and unfortunately, he passed the day before Mother's Day. And so we made it a point to honor him every single year. And I'm wearing his logo right now. And so, and the family is grateful that we did this. The mother, there was some language barrier there, but the father was able to interpret, and we just want people to know we don't never want to forget him. The second, I had the honors to meet with the District 6 regarding Grant Elementary School, and it was a success. The papers, I think, acknowledged it was like 30, but I counted almost 50 people showed up that night. And we will have a part 2 on the 13th of July. So, yeah, it's the 13th of July. So please, if you want to come out, please do so. And also, too, I had the honors to be part of the Juneteenth. I am very proud of that committee. It was one of the best events I have attended with Juneteenth. The Hainif sisters were the hosts. They were amazing. And it was a lot of people come out, and all of us got a chance to share our thoughts, and it was an honor. Thank you so much.
Councilmember Ledeshu.
So yes, I'm requesting that we go back to item agenda 14, because I actually do have a request, and that I think it's really important. So I'm not given that opportunity if we just fly by this.
Okay, go ahead.
You. Okay, so I'm asking that the city manager bring back an update for the temporary building and equipment that was purchased for our police dispatchers, where they're located, where's the equipment, what's going on with that. And then I'm also asking that we have an update on the Housing Authority. There's been a lot of concern around the Housing Authority. I've received different emails I was out in public just this week, and there were some questions brought forward regarding being able to get customer service. So I would really like for us to have an update around operations, workload, hours, and how we are going to move forward with that particular organization.
Go ahead, City Manager.
Would FYI memo updates suffice for both of those?
For me, that's fine.
It
However
is?
you choose to do it, as long as
Okay.
we get it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we've noted that. Are you okay doing that? Do we need to vote or?
Oh, no, we can do
Okay.
that. That's easy. I mean, something like that should never require a vote.
That's music to my ears. All right, Councilmember Gordon, you had something else?
Yeah, if the city manager remember, I did bring that same subject up. If you could please send it to me too, please.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the policy is that if one gets it, everybody gets it. Okay?
All right, thank you. Okay. Go ahead if you do.
I
Okay.
do. So as you probably realized, there was a huge fire on Sonoma Boulevard involving a mobile home, and it's on Caltrans property. Is that correct? Someone wanted to define the difference. If not, I was asking if we could do a scope to hold Caltrans to make sure that carcass don't sit there.
It is my understanding that it should have been removed by now.
Okay.
Yeah. We
Thank
were on
you.
that this morning.
All right, thank you. And then there's another one that's on Porter Street that someone actually towed it there, and it's also another carcass.
Yeah.
But it came off of Highway 29.
Right. If you come across anything like that, we maintain a list of all the work that we're going to do in terms of all the encampments, the RVs. If you can get me like a specific address or some landmark that we can focus in on.
I guess the question that was asked of me was, is Caltrans responsible for that if it's on Highway 29, or is it the city?
No. If it's Caltrans property, either an actual Caltrans parcel or their right of way, then they are responsible for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So that's clear, Randy. So how do I ask the city to help find a scope in that? Reach out to Caltrans? How can I word that?
I can.
Randy.
Or unless you. Yeah. I mean, so when we know about something like that, just give us as much detail as possible, and then we can communicate directly with Caltrans.
Okay, so we don't have to have a vote on that ask?
That would not be necessary at all.
All right, thank you very much.
All right, with that, I will make one quick comment before we adjourn, which is just that we actually have a sister city delegation in Ensenada this week, which is our newest sister city. That delegation began on, that official visit began on Monday and ends on Thursday, Monday being yesterday. I don't know what day it is. Yesterday, and it ends on Thursday. I will be driving to Ensenada tomorrow to participate on Thursday in a flag football game between the Sarna League and a local team and official visits. I want to thank Eric and everybody. We put together a gift basket that we're going to be giving on behalf of the city, and I may or may not be at Tuesday's council meeting, depending on if I'm in we're working on it. So we will have a council meeting on Tuesday. It should be brief. I may or may not be there, but I will be proudly representing Vallejo on my first sister city trip, and I'm very excited. So with that, I will adjourn us at 11:26.
Mayor, do we have to adjourn?
Oh, thank you. Back up. I rescind what I just said. The reason we're meeting on the 30th is because we have to do the second bit of the ordinance. Oh, I need to find the language. Vice Mayor, one of us is going to find it. I got it. We have to finish the ordinance for the budget, so I am now adjourning our meeting to an adjourned regular meeting at 6 p.m. on Tuesday, June 30th, 2026. Okay, let me repeat that. Tuesday, June 30th, 2026, 11:27 p.m. We are adjourned to that meeting.